Chapter 351, You guys don't want to follow me anymore, let me calm down. You guys go to deliver food to Anil as soon as possible. I am not such a selfish person, and at the same time I am not such a person who does not know what to rely on. And the most important thing is that I am not such a person who has everyone involved with me for my own benefit. Although I say that I am not a person on weekdays, a person who can convince me myself, but I am definitely not a killer of innocent people. Don't worry, I will go to the deck to take a good rest and let the wind breathe. The steward of the kitchen heard that this great plague god was leaving the kitchen. It was really great. But if she were to go back to the kitchen again, it would make him very angry if he didn't get it right. So the steward of the big kitchen quickly filled Arthur with a lot of delicious food, put it in a basin, and put it in front of Arthur. Arthur, you should hurry up and eat something. You can take these things to the deck now. You know, we don't have much left in the back kitchen. The rest are already being packed and ready to be sent to Anil. And I know you are now. If you want to go around for a while, then eat quickly and wander after something. People say that people who are hungry are very irritable, so now that you find a place to sleep and wake up when you are full, you will be able to forget many things. Arthur took the kitchen, the steward handed him the basin, and he nodded when he looked at the delicious food in it. He knew what the kitchen had done today, and he also knows this time the best thing that can be taken out of this basin is considered to be the best thing. After nodding with this plate, Arthur went to the deck and found a shelter from the wind, and then took his chopsticks and started to eat his first meal of the day. While eating Arthur, I felt that I was also very wronged. After all, I did all the work this morning, and Arthur had no idea how long he hadn't done such heavy work. Since going out to sea with those people, whether it is a pirate or an officer or soldier, Arthur has never suffered such a grievance. Now that she has lost the anger of these tortoise bastards, it really makes him Arthur. All felt very angry. I used chopsticks to pound the food in the basin a few times, and then continued to eat while Arthur ate everything into his stomach. He only realized that these things really seemed to be a bit too much, and he felt that his stomach was already swollen. It really made Arthur feel special helpless. Such a good thing, I actually ate all of it, and didn't save it for the next meal. This is really unacceptable, and Arthur used to collect food. After all, in this vast ocean, if you really don't want to eat fish every day, then you can only eat less, and eat less on the land. But now Arthur actually ate everything in an angry state, and now Arthur can only pray that it will win this time and occupy the island, so that it will be able to there are other foods to eat. Mime Private 352. Arthur watched that several springboards had been put down on the boat, and then some people slowly walked off the boat carrying some food. For this kind of war on the island, Arthur is really unwilling to contact, and at the same time he has reached an agreement with Anil, and no longer pays attention to these messy things. So Arthur did not follow at this time. Go. Looking at the distant figure, Arthur didn't want to say anything. After all, these people had nothing to do with him. Arthur found a walk and put it on his head, and then he was confused. I fell asleep at home at night. Suddenly, some noisy noises were heard outside, and Arthur opened his eyes and felt some discomfort. When Arthur lifted the gauze covering himself and looked far away, he saw that a raging fire was already burning in the forest. Slowly, those big fires have spread to the sea, although there is still between the forest and the sea a long beach belt. But this does not prevent the heat from coming. Arthur didn't know what happened on their side, but for Arthur at this time, it was like standing on the bow of a boat watching the excitement. If such a large area of forest were burned down like this, Arthur would feel very sorry, but this is his Anil business and he has nothing to do with him, and even if Arthur wants to manage, he has no way to start. At this time, Arthur found that the people who were on the bed also ran to the deck one after another, when they saw that a raging fire had ignited in that direction. Everyone panicked along with them, because Anil was in that direction now, and it seemed that these fires were also closely related to them. Oh my god, what the hell is going on here? Why did it suddenly catch fire over there? What happened to them? Didn't it mean that there were no officers and soldiers on this island? How come you can fight all of a sudden? Who caused these fires? I don't know what is going on with General Anil now. I am really too scared. There are people talking about these things in his ears. Arthur really feels speechless. Don't these people know how they can affect others? Find flowers. If it is a person who is not determined, he will definitely think about it when he hears these words. But fortunately Arthur is not such a person. And Arthur didn't think that this kind of thing could affect him. Not to mention that some of these things were nothing more than an ordinary war for him. The wars Arthur had seen were worse than those of many of the original pirate ships, and even the warships of the Empire, when they were silent one by one or when they were defeated. When the people on the boat had nowhere to escape, such a tragic scene. He used to see that Arthur had often seen that only some trees were burned on the land now, and he felt that it was nothing at all. What's more, it is necessary to have personnel sacrifices to fight, so Arthur felt that these people really made a little fuss. Chapter 353, I think we should all be prepared. Such a thing will affect us if it is not done well for each of us. So now everyone has seen the people in that forest, and they have become like this. So let's go quickly. After that person finished speaking, he hurriedly left the way Arthur was looking at him on the splint, and couldn't help but shook his head. If such a person really came to a very tragic war, or the whole ship, if something goes wrong, this person is properly a traitor. At this time, the steward of the ship had already arrived next to Arthur. He felt very deeply in his heart when he saw Arthur standing there honestly at this time. Comfort. If Arthur really ran away at this time, then for all of them, Anil's temper was really very fierce, and Anil will never spare them. After all, they will stay just to see him live. Arthur, while doing little to give them food only. Arthur really thank you for being here, and really thank you for being here at this time. You can also help us with what the person just said. You don't need to be familiar with him. He is such a virtuous person, and he is very timid on weekdays. I know a person like him. If he is really on our boat, if he doesn't do it well, he will be a traitor. So now we should all be prepared. In fact, I don't think there is any problem with what he said. The big fires inside have been extinguished and are about to rush to us. And although we are still a certain distance away from those big fires, but I know that if the fires are not dealt with properly, it will really cause us some trouble. And if the entire forest is really burned out, it will definitely not have any good news for them. Arthur did not think what he could do, and Arthur also felt that under this situation, he did not have any psychological burden in his heart. After all the people on this ship don't have much to do with themselves, let alone being able to do with them. Going out to fish together is just for the face of the patriarch. If something happened to them, Arthur himself would actually be able to survive in the vast ocean. What's more, Arthur secretly rejoiced in his heart that he had really separated from them so much. Otherwise he would rely on his own character. How can you not go down with them? Fortunately, Anil had so many conflicts with himself before he set off, and he didn't even have so many ideas to be with them. Go under the boat. Don't worry, I believe that General Anil will win. And I also believe that someone like him, it must also be able to make all people follow him to do their best, and the most important thing is that people like her will be very good, so put your heart in your stomach. Chapter 354, the steward on the ship didn't expect Arthur to say such a thing at this time, and her firm eyes also gave herself very much confidence. At this time, Arthur looked at the telescope in his hand and took it over, carefully observing the conditions in the forest. At this time, Arthur could see that some people had come out of the forest, and Arthur found out that they were those who delivered the food and had news. Do you see it? The one who is in charge? The people who went out to deliver the food have already returned. You should go and take a look. He took the telescope that Arthur handed over. The steward looked at it, and it happened to be his own people. So he hurriedly let people put down the springboard on the boat. Only then can they get back on the boat. But Arthur saw a few of them, with his head down and wearing a hat. Arthur felt something was wrong. After all, They had all met Arthur who went out, but looking at the current situation, Arthur felt that he didn't know them a little bit, and there seemed to be something wrong with them. The more he thought about it, the more he wondered. He didn't follow those people to the springboard to meet the delivery people, but quietly covered himself with a large piece of cloth. The people on the boat were also very happy when they saw the food delivery people come back. Everyone gathered around. After all, at this time, everyone really wanted to know what the outside situation was like, and these people are their best. One of source. The two stewards walked up to these people together, but things came too suddenly. Suddenly several of these people pulled out a knife from their back and directly stabbed the two men in charge. At this time, all the crew members were all caught shocked. They were all dumbfounded. Seeing this situation, Arthur couldn't help but patted his chest. He was really too smart. If such a thing had to be encountered by himself. If you can't make it right, you'll be killed by them. Although Arthur knows that there are a lot of people on this ship, relying on these people, if they can really take the ship down, then how many of them are? The individual must be very fierce. The battle on the deck had already begun. Arthur hid in the corner, slowly watching them fall one by one in front of him. And Arthur felt that he was really a bit useless. But Arthur could also understand that in such a war, he could only protect himself from the Bright, although he said he wanted to help them. But what the consequences of helping them would be, he knew better than anyone in his heart, so now Arthur can only look at them. The people on the deck had been killed by these fierce men, and at this time they started to enter the cabin separately. Arthur didn't need to think about it. People like them will also slowly kill all the people on the ship, and the last result of staying on this ship is that they will be found by people like them. In the end, he didn't want to make these unnecessary sacrifices, so he quietly put down a small boat in the bow, and then jumped over. When those people watched Arthur's boat leave, they couldn't help but be surprised. Chapter 355. They really didn't expect that there were other people on this ship, and they really didn't expect that Arthur would slip away just like this under their noses. This is really a great shame for them, but there is no way. Arthur's distance is already very far, let alone their ship. It is impossible to fire some shells for a small boat like Arthur for a person like Arthur, otherwise they would not be able to kill Arthur at all. Watching one after another corpses were thrown off the big ship. The entire surface of the sea has been dyed red. Arthur, and he is still fortunate that some of the other ships in his fleet have already left, because Arthur had already suggested to the steward that they couldn't all stay here. If something really happened in the port, maybe all of them would be wiped out. Fortunately, the one in charge really listened to his own. Arthur quietly approached one of their boats. When the people on the boat saw Arthur alone, they all felt very surprised, because they all knew that Arthur and Anil were working against each other, and at the same time, they really didn't expect that Arthur didn't use this opportunity to leave the sea, but came directly to their ship. After the sailors on the ship picked up Arthur, Arthur felt like he was left behind. The captain of this ship couldn't help being a little surprised when he watched Arthur walk onto their ship, but now that Arthur had arrived on their ship, he asked, "Why wasn't it on my main ship just now? What happened there? I saw a lot of snow on the sea just now. What happened? Hurry up and say it. We still have some emergency preparations." Arthur told the captain all the things on the big ship, and the news also made the captain on the ship very shocked. He really didn't expect Arthur to escape in such a place. And the whole ship had turned into those pirate ships. And their big boat really has a lot of supplies. And their small boats put all the supplies on the big boat on weekdays. If it weren't for Arthur's reminder once, all of them would be exhausted, and in this case, it was not easy for him to be able to do this. At this time, the people on this ship also felt that Arthur was really a life-saving angel for them. If it weren't for Arthur's reminder, they will still stay in the harbor, and they will be killed by those pirates. If they don't make it right, their ship will be sunk as a whole, and all of them will become food in the sea. Grave accent Diarus Isai Housau. This ship is relatively sturdy. You can stay on this ship, wait for Anil. If there is any news, it's okay for you to go back to the big ship, and I think your Arthur's ability is also very strong. and it is really amazing to be able to stand on our ship. On weekdays, people like us may really say something to be sorry for you, and I hope you can bear it. Chapter 356. For the ship that could take him in. Arthur really felt that it was not easy, and at this time, if they really didn't take him in, they would actually have nothing to say. What's more, it's really not easy for them to do this time, and it can be regarded as a dead end. Arthur looked at the captain at this time, holding a telescope in his hand. He stretched out his hand and took the telescope over, and said with a smile looking at the people next to him, "I have to go over and take a look at the situation on the big ship over there, and at this time I found that the entire sea area is full of blood. We will definitely be surrounded by some sharks at that time, so you must protect yourself in these few days, but you must not be attacked by those sharks, otherwise, all of us will be in trouble. What's more, we must be more united at this time, and the current Anil side does not know what is going on. We must make ourselves stronger, or else we will be hit on the ship by those pirates. If you think about it, all of us have a dead end." The captain also nodded, because his sailing experience is also very strong, so he also understands what Arthur said. All the crew members were getting ready for the battle, and when Arthur looked at the big ship with the telescope at this time, it couldn't help but be a little surprised. Because the man on the big ship, he really saw him somewhere before, but he couldn't remember what was going on all of a sudden. After secretly suppressing this thought in his heart, he saw the next forest that was already on fire, and suddenly he saw a small group of people wriggling Arthur on the edge of the burning forest. Seeing such a person was not the fishermen of Anil at all, or even the officers and soldiers of Anil, which also made Arthur feel that they were the pirates. "Captain, you can see if these people are not yours. If this is the case, you should still organize them quickly. After that, unite with the people on the boats on both sides of the ship, and quickly stop these people. Otherwise, if these people really occupy the ship, they will leave here directly. At that time, even if we want to chase them back, it will be impossible. And you have also seen that all of them are very rampant and kill people without blinking. If we really can't stop them, think about it, even an eel in the forest has already won. We also mean to say that it really failed, so at this time you should understand what I mean by these words." The captain nodded, took the binoculars, and looked at the place where Arthur was pointing for the last time. He couldn't help but think secretly that Arthur's ability is really very powerful. And at the same time, I really feel that Arthur's reminder is very important. If it weren't for this kind of thing, they would definitely not find such problems. Chapter 357. Seeing the captain leaving in a hurry, Arthur felt relieved in his heart, because this kind of thing can only serve as a reminder. And some other things were done by the captain, and since he was able to accept his suggestions, then he didn't need to pay attention to the rest at all. Staying in this boat silently, watching the situation on the big boat at this time, Arthur really felt very helpless, because the person on the big bed could now remember who it was. Moreover, this man is a notorious pirate leader in this sea area. He is also a well-known figure, not to mention Arthur had a few tricks with him before. I also know her temper and temperament, and I really didn't expect to see him in such a place, not to mention that Arthur and her still have some ties, so even if I go to their ship, it would be good. Eat well and drink well. At this time, Arthur's mind was constantly echoing about Anil. He really didn't know how Anil was a general. He has been sneaked into his home like this by the enemy, and he doesn't know anything about it. This is really not like what he did. What's more, it is impossible for Anil to let such things happen in front of him. It seems that there are some twists and turns in this matter, and he doesn't want to discuss these things at all now. After a while, Arthur found that their ship was slowly approaching the shore, but the place where they approached the shore was exactly where the pair of pirates appeared. And the other ships slowly moved forward at the same speed, leaning against Arthur, knowing that they wanted to join forces. Deal with these pirates. And now, Arthur really didn't want to go out to fight with him, and at the same time secretly rejoicing in the agreement signed between him and Anil. Many sailors had quietly jumped off the boat, and at this time Arthur found that the bodies in the entire sea area had already stained the entire surface of the sea. Find flowers and if they just jumped down like this, if they didn't make it right, the sharks rushed over would become their food. But it turned out that they didn't have so many chances at this time. If they really don't do this, maybe they will face great harm no matter how to retake the ship, so it seems that these people are really fighting for their lives. A man walked over on the deck. Arthur did not speak after looking at him, but the man looked at Arthur quietly. The enthusiasm and excitement in his eyes also made Arthur feel inexplicable. Arthur really didn't expect that I would still be able to fight with you one day. I am really grateful to God for giving me such an opportunity. You may not really know me, but I do know your name. I was originally a subordinate of General Anil. After working as a pirate with him, I have already heard your name in this sea area. I am really excited to be with you now. I also know that you must not recognize me. Second, I'm Private 358. If I couldn't help but take a look, this man really didn't know Arthur at all for such a man, and he just heard his own name. Now looking at his admiring gaze, Arthur, he couldn't help, shook his head. Young man, do you know, no one lives so easily on this sea. You just hear the me in others' mouths. But if you really live with me, you will find that I am just an ordinary person, and I can live on this sea till now. It's just because of my good luck. Every time I die, every time I can be rescued by a nobleman. So if you say I am very lucky, if you want to be famous in this sea area, then you must also rely on yourself. And you can't rely on those messy legends. Young man. When I looked at Arthur, I really admired him even more. It was really not easy for such an arrogant person to say these things to himself in such a low manner. And his current situation of Arthur can deeply make this young man feel that Arthur is not easy. Picking up the binoculars this time, Arthur no longer paid attention to this man, but looked very seriously, and turned to those who had already ignited next to him. Cutting edge. But Arthur understands that a person's life is only once. Arthur's main purpose is to find a new route at this time, and he is not fighting those pirates at all, not to mention that he is not willing to do those killings at all. Those sailors who apologized to the shore had already been with those. The pirates fought together, and now it can be seen that those pirates are really impatient. They have disregarded any means. Every time they took a wedding photo, they hit the door directly, and they came to escape this time, so now these sailors and pirates have been stunned. They are already on the shore, and the people on the big ship have already got off. They are here to meet the pirates. At this time, the men and horses of the two sides had really come together. Arthur looked at his big ship, and a lot of people had already got off one after another. Even the young man had already rushed to the first line. Arthur couldn't help but shook his head. Such a desperate spirit, really like himself before, but now after so much, Arthur felt that his fate was his own. As long as he didn't endanger his life, he would be able to avoid it. The real thing is that the shouts and the wailing sounds have also been mixed together, and Arthur can only sigh helplessly when looking at their falling bodies. Arthur walked off the ship quietly. He wanted to go back to the big ship to see what his old friend was like now. Moreover, he was able to occupy such a ship so quickly. It shows that this old friend is still very capable. The most important thing is that he can defeat Anil on such an island, which is really a very different thing. Easy thing. Chapter 359. The war outside was already in full swing, and at this time Arthur came quietly on his original big ship. He saw that there were no people on the big ship at this time. This also really made him feel very uncomprehending. Why do people like them do it like this? Could it be said that being a pirate is really such a chic person? After the dog walked to the big ship quietly, he discovered that all the original people on the ship had been cleansed by them. And now on this ship, there is not even a guardian, which is really surprising. And the most important thing is that people like them were able to just give up such a big ship. Oh, this also made Arthur feel very incredible. It took so much effort to get this ship, but in the end, you shouldn't just give up anything like this. How could this be what that guy did? Having reached all of this, after Arthur had wandered around the ship for a long time, he realized that he had really thought about it too much, but there really was some mystery in it. Because these people have already moved all the supplies off the ship, they really don't know where they have hidden all these things. You must know that if there were no such materials in this sea, people like them would not be able to move an inch. Even if they wanted to return to the floating island, it would be impossible. Arthur felt like a good modern hunter, searching carefully on this ship, and at the same time enduring some fright. After all, so many people have died on this ship, and there are already so many people on the outside of this ship who are constantly fighting and killing each other. Although Arthur didn't want to carefully observe and watch their fights, it would be a very immoral thing to copy someone else's nest at this time, but Arthur really did. When Arthur hadn't let go of any corner of all the boats, he discovered that all the materials had been hidden by them at the bottom. And they have also put down a few small boats on the side of the ship. If they can't win this time. Words of such a war. They were about to take away all the supplies, and even to pierce the big ship. When Arthur saw all this, I couldn't help but be surprised. But fortunately, I quickly returned to this ship, otherwise the ship would have been scrapped. If they didn't know that they had done some tricks, they would be buried in the vast ocean after the boat went out to sea. Arthur pulled the boats that had been lowered back by himself. Then, looking at so many supplies, there was nothing he could do, and he could only let them stay in the bottom of the shipyard. When Arthur was able to return to the deck, he really found himself in a cold sweat. And at this time Arthur felt that he was too capable of fighting with his own fighting ability. He can also make some famous names on this sea, and he knows if he really wants to become a pirate. Chapter 360. That's just a matter of minutes. As long as you join either of them, you can have a good day. But for him, Arthur, he had done this kind of pirate life before. So now he really doesn't want to continue doing this kind of life. A telescope was found in the wheelhouse, and Arthur took him to the bow of the ship, and then secretly covered his body with a huge cloth, making himself look no different from the ship. Arthur took binoculars to observe such a place carefully, which made him look a little thrilling, and he also knew that he was not such a cold-blooded person. So when the blood was flowing in front of him, Arthur really felt that he really didn't want to see it again. In Arthur's eyes, these people are all fighting meaninglessly. If they can shake hands and make peace, maybe the two of them can trust each other. In this case, they really don't have the need to fight for life and death. If the two parties are combined, Arthur thinks they will definitely be like this. The strongest pirate in the sea. The fire in the forest continued to burn. Arthur looked at Arthur, who was still fighting at this time, and felt his stomach growl. There was not even a single food on the ship. When the small mask searched the cabin, it was discovered that all the food inside had been dumped by these people, or it has been put away. So now it turns out that he can no longer stay on this boat. But he also knows if he really leaves at this time, if this ship is not done well, it will be really silent. For a person who loves sailing, this is really impossible. When Arthur was so entangled, a ling suddenly appeared next to Arthur, and he felt a particularly depressed shadow. Arthur couldn't move around at this time, because he could reveal his position if he moved at this time. So Arthur could only endure silently. Arthur could hear the dark figure outside turning things there, but when he didn't turn to Arthur's place, there was already a very loud noise from the boat. I don't know what happened to the ship, and the figure was also attracted by the sound, and Arthur quickly walked from under the cloth, got out. At this time, Arthur really felt that he was in a dilemma. If he left the ship like this, Arthur would still be unbearable. But if he continued to stay on the ship, Arthur knew he was found. The possibility is really too great. And Arthur is really unwilling to participate in it. If Zhao otherwise, Arthur is not afraid of being exposed to such a crowd. After thinking for a while, Arthur quickly came to a place on the side of the ship, where he was Arthur, as early as when he was going to sea. The last safe place I left for myself. You have a deep trench to allow Arthur to stay there safely, and this place is on the outside of the ship, and ordinary people can't see it at all. Mime Private 361. And when he was at the top of the pass, the child hadn't cleaned it. Arthur quickly got into the small groove in that place, and then waited slowly on the ship. I don't know how long it took. Arthur had fallen asleep in a daze, and when he woke up again, the sky outside had darkened. The moon was shining gently on the sea, and piles of bonfires lit up on the beach at this time, and there was no sound on the boat. Quietly picking up his binoculars, Arthur saw the figure of Anil on the beach in the distance, as well as the figure of his good friend. It's just that the distance between the two sides is still a little far away, which also made Arthur stunned. He originally thought that two people could shake hands and make peace. But now it seems that the two people have really made a lot of effort in this area, but they are both on the same beach. But there is no swordsman to meet, which is really not easy. Touching his hungry stomach, Arthur felt a little helpless. At this time, bursts of fragrance came from the boat. A familiar voice had reached Arthur's ears, and Arthur recognized that this was the steward on this ship. Arthur got out of the groove, and when he stood in front of the tube room, he was really taken aback. He originally thought that Arthur would use this opportunity to escape, or that he had been killed by those people, but now he did not expect that Arthur would stand in front of him safely, which also made her very worried. And Arthur was also very puzzled. How could this manager appear in this place at this time? After all, this place has been occupied and everyone has been killed, but this man, as the steward of this ship, was not killed. This also really made Arthur feel special believing, and suddenly he was surprised to see this steward and asked, "It's really hard to imagine that you are such a person. You are the one who led to the boat. Is it really you? How can you do such a thing? These people are the corpses thrown down by your brothers and sisters, are they? Are you really willing? Don't you feel bad about doing something like this? Now everything has been directed towards you. I don't know which side you are, but I know the people on both sides, my friend on the other side, and Anil on the other side of Tony. Do you think you can really walk between them? If they know all these things you have done, do you think they can really forgive you?" The person in charge also knows that he has done this thing very unordinarily, but there is no way. This kind of thing is not something he can do if he wants to do it. It's not that he can't do it if he doesn't want to do it, and he also has very lasting difficulties, even though she has betrayed Anil. But his ability to appear on this ship also made Anil feel more at ease. In this way, even if the two sides really confronted each other again, the current problem might not arise at all. Arthur saw a lot of food in his hand. Mime Private 362. I couldn't help but take it in my heart. The people on both sides felt worried. If the person in charge really wanted to harm the people on both sides, then his food would really be the culprit is now. At this time, the steward also saw Arthur's eyes staring at his food basket, and he was somewhat helpless, even though he had really betrayed Anil. But how can he dare to attack Anil in this situation? And what a shrewd man Anil is, if he is really discovered by him. If you can't make things right, he really has no place to bury him. But now he has done all the wrong things himself, and it is impossible to make up for it. And Arthur can know all this. It seems that Arthur is the real person. Can't keep him here anymore. It's just that Arthur has seen the changes on the man's face now, and he knows that this man has already murdered himself. At this time, Arthur quietly pulled out a dagger from behind him, and then, when the steward was not paying attention, he had already stabbed him directly. The moment the man fell to the ground, he really didn't expect Arthur to learn to act first. The basket with the food fell to the ground at once. Arthur was a little worried when he saw the food there, but he was already hungry at this time. And she also knew that the man in front of her didn't dare to betray his master again, and if these things weren't done well, she would get them for her master. After quietly putting the food basket aside, when Arthur returned to the restaurant again, he found that there were still a few people in the restaurant this time. When they saw Arthur's arrival, they couldn't help but be a little surprised. They didn't know when outsiders arrived on the ship. But there was a man inside that made Arthur feel like he had seen him somewhere. Try to shout, "Ibuprofen." A man turned his head. When he looked at Arthur, he was also shocked. The basin he was holding in his hand fell to the ground and made a clanging sound. Ibuprofen quickly moved forward and hugged Arthur, tears streaming out. Find flowers. Why are you here, Arthur? We haven't seen each other for a long time. Why are you on this ship? Why have I never seen you? Seeing Ibuprofen, who was crying with joy at this time, Arthur was really helpless. For a man of this age, he was able to cry with tears when he saw himself, which made him feel particularly helpless. I'm so old. I'm still here crying and picking up things quickly. Don't let people laugh at you. This look will make everyone feel particularly shocked, or introduce me to all of you people. Don't let them all know that I'm an outsider. Ibuprofen raised his arm at this time, wiped the tears from his eyes, looked at everyone, and said after hiding Arthur in his arms, "I know you must be very puzzled. Who is this man? Why does it make me so excited? I tell you, she is my good friend, and his name is Arthur." Chapter 363. At the same time, he is also a good friend of Tony. He saved our lives when we were sailing at sea before, so this person is absolutely no problem. And if you guys really have any thoughts about her, wait until you see Tony to talk to him. And you all know the character of Tony. If you really want to deal with Arthur, please also think about his violent temper. Everyone in the restaurant is hearing it. They couldn't help laughing when Ibuprofen said these words. For all of them, they lived with Tony, and now that the separation of the tribe can guarantee Arthur's safety. So how can people like them reject such a person? What's more, all of them don't care about it at all. Arthur looked at the food in their hands and suddenly remembered the box he had put outside. I killed a man outside with Ibuprofen just now. He was the original steward on this ship. He is a traitor. Did you give him a box in his hand? Is it for Tony? I have seen Tony's figure in the spectacles. I really didn't expect you to come to this place. What good things are there in this place for you to fight for like this? And I don't think there are any good things in this place. This is the first time I have come to this island. It really makes you feel so. Something of interest. Ibuprofen looked at when Arthur didn't know what was on the island at this time. He also felt that some masters were already in a cave because all the resources on this island were actually in a cave. The reason why people like them came to this island was actually just for these resources. And they didn't expect to meet Anil's people together. What's more, they have been on this island for nearly a month, so Anil is actually just not calculating the time this time. And these people are already ready to retreat. They originally wanted to leave here, but only when they wanted to leave did they meet Anil Zero. But at this time, it can be seen that Arthur must have come with Anil, otherwise he wouldn't know anything. So at this time, after Ibuprofen glanced at the people around him, after pulling Arthur aside, he said, "I said that your kid didn't know anything and you followed along. Did you know that this place is very dangerous, and there are a lot of gold resources on this island? You don't want to think about it. Seeing that all of us have been attracted here, and there is a larger pirate group, they will definitely be attracted. We have collected enough things, and fate has been preparing to leave in the past few days. I didn't expect to meet the person Anil. And you also saw us people. In fact, there have been a large number of people injured. So now for us, if we really want to leave this ship, it is our best choice. We did this kind of thing when there was no other way. Do you know Anil? How did you come to this place? Mime Private 364. After listening to what you said about Ibuprofen, Arthur suddenly realized that Anil really had been prepared for it. But all of them had already been regarded by her as himself, a stepping stone to desire. So Arthur separated himself from Tony and the others, how he came to the floating island, and what he came to, after having told him about what happened here. Ibuprofen nodded and looked at Arthur. This time it was really not easy. As early as when he wanted to leave, his boss, Tony, already wanted to receive him under his hands, but Arthur was too stubborn. and he really did not eat hard, so everything is now his own. What you want? Suddenly, after hearing the sound of the horn for a while, Arthur couldn't help but was stunned. But at this time the tribe Finney had already begun to quickly walk back to his original working place. After all people heard such a voice, they also accelerated the speed of the work in their own hands. Arthur heard that it was a urging voice to leave. Arthur hurriedly came to the deck and watched that Tony was already on the boat quickly. When he saw Arthur on the boat, he couldn't help but froze there, hugged Arthur quickly, and slammed on him, patted on the back, and then said, "Where have you been, you bastard? Do you know that you should stay in one place honestly at this time, instead of walking around casually? Do you know that the war between Anil and I is not over yet? How can you come out casually? If he found out, you such a small person would have been dead for a long time." Although Tony was complaining at this moment, his actions were really welcoming him, and Arthur couldn't help laughing. He still knows his friend very well, and this person will always have this virtue, and he will never say good things. "Okay, don't tell me all these useless nonsense, you kid. This time I was able to be here, but it was just a coincidence. I didn't expect that you would come to this place. It seems that there is really a lot of tacit understanding between the two of us. It is really not easy for us people. Why did you sound the horn just now? What exactly happened? Was he Anil attacking again? I didn't expect you to have a big fight with Anil. It's really not easy. Anil is a person who must report his flaws. You must be careful at this time. Tony doesn't care about Anil at all. And he doesn't care about such things at all. Because for him at this time, he doesn't care about Anil at all. Is the Anil you mentioned the opponent we met in the Imperial Navy before? I tell you she is not a person at all. And just as a person like him, how do you think he can be the king and hegemony in this place? We already wanted to leave, but he went to war with me toughly. Can you say that you can go without fighting with him? Chapter 365. Arthur didn't expect things to happen to the point where it is now, and you must know that what they were fighting for was just the right to mine a gold mine. If the two parties were mining together, they would have been able to get along with each other a long time ago, but now they have both come together to go to Arthur. I felt that I didn't know how to help both sides, and now that Tony had the upper hand, it was nothing to Arthur. How many years of relationship Tony has with himself, and what kind of character Anil is, these are not measured by Arthur. I really didn't expect Tony. What do you want to do now? It's already reached, so it looks like you are retreating from this sea area now, or you are planning to mine with them. It is a troublesome thing to know that things like gold mines are mined together, and since each other can't believe the establishment of each other, well, I think it's better to do things independently, or else they will fight for these sperm in the end. By then, it might as well be like now. Tony took Arthur and walked into the shipyard together. The two clapped their hands from time to time. This was their friendship for many years. And this is the friendship brought about by their life and death together. So the two people also cherished this kind of reconstruction time for each other very much. After waiting for the restaurant, Tony told Arthur to sit in a chair quickly. After taking a close look at Arthur, he could see that Arthur was not harmed in any way, which also made Tony secretly relieved a lot. We must know that Arthur is not such a powerful person, and Arthur's ability lies in its control of the entire sea and his memory. These pirates who are sailing are very important to the nautical chart, so their importance to Arthur also lies in this. Boss, you are back. You see, if we are really fated to see Arthur in this place. Following these words of ibuprofen, Arthur also took care of her and sat on the chair together. I said, ibuprofen, you old boy, why don't you send someone to send me a letter quickly? If I knew that Arthur was here, I would be back long ago. And there is no need to spend such a long time on the beach. I was on the beach just to frighten Anil, but my friend came over, so how could I not come back? Ibuprofen scratched his hair, a little helpless. Just now, he really wanted to tell Tony, but Arthur said he wanted to surprise her. That's why he didn't. To do this, but now that his boss said so, he also knew that he was a little ill-conceived. After seeing the predicament of ibuprofen at this time, the money is good, Arthur just smiled blackly. Grave accent diaresis. Come on, Tony, don't talk about him here. I didn't let him come here. I wanted to give you a surprise, so I didn't let him go. Think about it, we are all good friends for such a long time. You will be very pleasantly surprised when you see me, so I am just trying to give you such a surprise. Are you unhappy to see me? Mime Private 366. Tony nodded helplessly. She was too shocked by the surprise Arthur gave her. He really didn't expect that Arthur would actually rise in this place. When they were parting, he himself once said that he wanted to go outside for a while. But now they meet on such a small island. This is really like what people said before. The two mountains cannot meet again, but the two people will definitely meet if they are fate. Actually, Arthur, I don't have anything to complain about him. But I just think it's really good for our good friends to get along like this. And there is no conflict of interest between us. And this friendship between us is really very pure. So for me, I value such a friendship very much. And I hope you can value it so much. And you don't want to think about this kind of friendship between us. But after the baptism of war, so for each of us, I think this kind of friendship is the best. Right? When these people in the restaurant heard what Tony said at this time, they all couldn't believe it. You must know that Tony is an uncultured boss. But these words now make people feel particularly shocked. And how can some cultural words like this appear in his mouth? If these words were uttered by him, everyone would agree very much. But now Tony himself said these words, it really makes his friends feel very incredible. Boss, after you fought with Anil on the island, why are you so educated? Could it be that Anil infected you? Or is it your situation now? Did you really use your brain? What you said is really philosophical, and we people admire you very much. Listening to the flattering sound of his own pirate brothers, Tony couldn't help laughing. He really felt speechless about such a thing. It's rare for me to say so many educated people, but when people like them say it, it's like him copying other people's things. This really made him feel special when he was separated. She stretched out his hand and twisted his fist vigorously. After the whole hand made a creaking sound. Everyone could see that Tony was already a little angry at this time, and they all knew what virtue their boss was. So now after hearing this voice, everyone couldn't help laughing. They all knew their boss very well, and such an action means that he wants to hit someone immediately, which is really not good news for all of them. Because Tony's hands are particularly dark, no matter whether he is attacking his opponent or his own people, he has never been serious. And the most important thing is that he has never been so easy to talk. As long as he wants to do it, basically no one can escape in his hand, so everyone can't help but want to stay away from him when they see this action. Chapter 367, Arthur could see that everyone looked like this and couldn't help but laugh, because he himself had suffered such a loss in the past. Moreover, he was entrusted by him to repair him at the time, and he was dumbfounded, and he knew exactly how much he was hurt at that time. So he now sees everyone like this. He couldn't help laughing, and Tony could also see the meaning of everyone's behavior, which to him is tantamount to slapping him in the face. On weekdays, although I often say that I use my fist to talk, it also shows that I and them are not outsiders at all. If it were an outsider, he would have already killed him. What's more, these people were all brothers who were born and died with him. How could he be able to kill him? Tony, have you seen it? Our brothers are all very scared of you, and you don't want to think about it. When you see your face on weekdays, you are very scared. And in ordinary days, can't you talk to your brother well? Why do I have to use my fist to speak? You are not ignorant of our brothers. Each of them is very afraid of you, and if a person like you can speak well, you are still a very good and handsome boy. But now, if you look at your all-time knives and guns, you have turned yourself into a thug. I know that you speak with the size of your fist on this boat, but there are many times I hope you can think about it, and eat quickly, Ibuprofen mud. I have prepared all these meals and I have had one more day and I am hungry and really want to eat something. Ibuprofen, after listening to this, quickly bring up all the meals they made. And this time Arthur remembered the meals on the deck time. I couldn't help but feel a little helpless. It seemed that I had really misunderstood the man in charge, but Arthur felt that it would not be so good if he killed the man in charge. Find flowers After all, he is not a good person, and the most important thing is that a person like him is not a good person, even if he kills him himself. He doesn't have any psychological burden. Ibuprofen, I remember there still seems to be a lunchbox on the deck. Did you bring it back? I remember that I have reminded you once. I just don't know if the food is for Anil or Tony. If it's for Tony, I suggest you don't eat it. Maybe these words I said are really inappropriate, but I think the food I eat is especially at this time. If not my own person took it over. It's best not to eat, in case he does something in the middle, then all of us will follow along. Ibuprofen had already brought back the things on the splint, and all the food in it had been poured into the sea, let alone really. Saw a few fish floating in the sea. There was a wave of fear in my heart. Second, Mime Private 368. If it hadn't been for his reminder from Arthur, perhaps Tony would have already been by this time. Was brought down, and he drags you. If it is really gone, then these people are really going to die, because Tony is not only everyone's leader, but also everyone's spiritual leader. We must know that when so many people are planted together on a boat, it is not because of how cruel this person is. It is often his personal charm that can gather so many people. So now separation is the spiritual leader of all of them. The reason why they can stay in this team is also because of Donna's personal charm. So now for Ibuprofen at this time, he really felt that Arthur had saved his life, and at the same time saved everyone's lives. Tony didn't know what was going on, so he turned his head and looked at Ibuprofen, who was standing next to him, and asked, "What the hell is going on?" "What is going on with this thing?" Arthur said. "Tell me the original. I don't want to hear anything wrong, and I don't want to hear some sophistry you said to me. You also know my character, so I hope you can tell me well." Ibuprofen originally didn't think about how to deceive Tony, so he said all these things Arthur said to him. And I also expressed my thoughts. At this time, when everyone's eyes turned to Arthur again, they were very grateful for this kind of eyes. And Arthur didn't think how right he was doing this thing, and he didn't think what was wrong with what he did. After all, now that he knew that these people were his good friends, how could he ignore it? Woolen cloth. Tony stood up, hugged her, and Arthur, who was sitting next to her, patted her back vigorously. "Arthur, I really didn't think that you saved my life again. If you didn't find out about this matter, if it was really to be the steward of the boat, this meal was delivered to me. With my attitude towards our own people, how can you say that I can doubt him? I will definitely eat it without hesitation. It will be too much trouble then, and what will we end up like when the time comes? We must all know it ourselves, so now I really thank you very much. You saved my one-time life, Arthur. This time you saved all of us. Thank you so much." Arthur was a little out of breath now, being held by Tony, and he patted Donna's arm twice and said, "I said why your kid is so sensual. How can you be like this? Do you know that you are about to choke me out of breath? You want my life. You don't want to thank me for saving my life. We have been friends for so many years. How can you say that I can die? What's more, I just kindly reminded me. I just suspect that I have no real evidence, so I dare not say anything else. Now you are fine. This is the best. Mime Private 369. Everyone knows that things are not as calm as Arthur said, and Arthur killed a person because of this. Think about it. If he really didn't know anything about Arthur, how could he do this? And every person they are doing will have more or less lives in their hands. Everyone knows under what circumstances can kill people, and under what circumstances try not to kill people, and in this situation, if it were not for necessary reasons, how could Arthur be on this ship at such a dangerous time? To kill? Okay, Arthur, Don't say so much. I am also very grateful for your life-saving grace. Hurry up and prepare 2 good food and drink. We must not get drunk in a while. Ibuprofen quickly walked into the kitchen, and in a short while in the kitchen, he brought out a lot of delicious food, and when he came up, Arthur really felt that he was already attentive enough. I said, "Did your old boy take out all the good things?" "You are here to entertain him. Arthur will not hesitate to bankrupt me." It is really not easy to know that we want to get something to eat in this place. I didn't want much of the things on this ship, but later, I saw that Anil was really inhuman, so I hid everything in it. Now it's really cheap, Arthur, for you. Listening to Donna's complaints at this time, Arthur couldn't help laughing. For Tony at this time, such complaints were just that he wanted to be entertained. Of course, Arthur was very clear about what Tony was saying at this time. What the meaning is, this is also telling Arthur in a disguised form that these things are his. I said, "Tony, you have been so kind to entertain me." "What? Now you are telling me these useless nonsense here? Do you know what you are saying now? It really makes me take it to my heart. I know that your old boy is a man who is not stingy, so these people under your hand are very generous, and now it seems that they are all good brothers just like you. Let's not say anything. Let's drink the bar quickly, but you can drink too much tonight, even though you have already achieved a certain victory now. But let me tell you that it is not the last moment. Can you be so proud? Or else you will always be injured at the end." Of course Tony knew that he really shouldn't drink at this time, but Arthur saved his life. How could he not express it? What's more, he now really feels that Anil is also cultivating troops, so now that they have occupied this ship of Anil, they have been able to give them a fatal blow. Arthur looked at the other people, and watched silently as he and Tony were talking and laughing, and they were standing by the side, which was really shameful. What's more, after fighting for such a long time hungry, now if everyone is not allowed to eat, then Arthur feels that these people are too immoral. Mime Private 370 gently stabbed Tony with his hand, then said, "Don't let everyone watch it like this anymore. We should eat and drink, and let them all go to eat." "When is this already? Let's not eat. They will be very hungry. And they will also be very hard. We really can't do this. People will hate us when the time comes." "Not to mention your deeds. A leader of this team, you cannot patronize. You have many things. You must take care of other people." Tony was a little embarrassed by what he said. He was not that kind of person at all. He ate and drank with everyone on weekdays. And they actually didn't have many people in their entire team, so for Tony, there was no need to separate them out. Now it was just because of happiness that she suddenly forgot about these people, so she smiled at the alliance. All the people said, "Yeah, what Arthur reminded is really very correct. If it weren't for him, we would all have dinner right now. And now it's because we were so happy talking with Arthur." Then everyone too, "Don't stay here. Stay like this. Hurry up and eat. We will have something to do in a while." After listening to these words Tony said, everyone was also quick, went to the table next to them, because they themselves were really very hungry. And after listening to this for a while, I also feel that this kind of friendship between two people can really allow them to truly witness this kind of friendship. Arthur saw that everyone had dispersed, and he felt a lot of comfort in his heart. After all, this kind of thing really made him feel a little bit pressured for himself. And these people are now. I was really hungry, otherwise everyone would be able to continue for a while. Arthur actually sat on the table with Tony and Ibuprofen. They were really hard this time, and they all felt that they were not easy this time. They were all talking about the things they did after they left each other. Arthur couldn't help but feel a little unbelievable when he heard all the things they had encountered after they left. You must know that these people are now very capable people. It's just that when Arthur heard some of what they said, he was really unbelievable. You should know that he looked at them all in a big way on weekdays. But they didn't expect that they would have so many thoughts in their hearts, and Arthur felt that he could really be able to pick up treasures this time. And these good friends of my own can do this. Having made this kind of decision, I am also very happy in my heart. And the most important thing Kianzao is in the minds of people like them. It is really not easy to be able to live a normal life, and it is really not easy for them to make some plans for their own lives now. Grave accent Diarus is Tony. If you decide this kind of thing yourself, then I really admire you, these decisions, and at the same time, I think you can do it like this. It's too much. Chapter 371. Tony didn't expect Arthur to be able to affirm his approach so much. Tony knows that Arthur is a very real person, so he is very happy in his heart now that he said these words, and he must know that Tony is really unwilling to let it. Arthur continued to be with Anil and the others, and they have reached this level this time, and there will be no good results. Arthur is his best friend. How could he allow Arthur to have trouble at this time? So now Arthur praises him. This also made him very happy, and he also knew that Arthur had really decided to stay with him. Arthur, I know that you are really good to me in your heart, and I can understand what you think at this time. What I have done now is actually nothing to me. But for these people under me, it can really bring them great benefits, so I have no choice but to do so. So many brothers under my hand have to eat with me, so I can only do this for them. Arthur, do you think it's right? And now I feel that I have reached a dilemma, and I really don't know how to face Anil. In the past, although he said he was an officer and soldier, but now he is a pirate like me. Originally, we should love each other. After all, for us pirates, dealing with officers and soldiers is the most important thing. But now his actions really make me feel too ugly to eat, and with a person like him, how can I cooperate with him? Arthur nodded. He knew Tony did this for the sake of everyone, and Arthur also believed very much that Tony would be able to lead everyone out of this sea. I think Ibuprofen Mud, your main responsibility now is to help Tony do a good job of logistics, and now I think this kind of thing will give everyone a lingering fear for everyone. So all of this now, it is how safe you should retreat. After all, you also have a settlement of your own. This small island is not your settlement, so we should leave here as soon as possible. And that person Anil has now been beaten by you and scared by you. He is also a little scared now, so take this opportunity when he is scared. We leave quickly. In this case, we may still have the opportunity to meet again next time. What do you think? Ibuprofen and Tony also nodded. Everyone knows that what Arthur said is very reasonable, and they all know if they want to leave now. In fact, it's really not very easy, and people like them already don't have some boats, not to mention that they have actually put their boats on another beach. And now that they can come to this big ship, it's actually a very difficult thing, because the coastline of this place is too long. If Tony and these little friends want to follow after leaving this sea area, they had no choice but to this big ship. Chapter 372. Now you know, Arthur, some of our things. What do you say we should do now? And you should be able to know. For all of us, we really want to leave here, because all of us have gradually been beaten here by them. Although we have won temporarily, we must know that if we continue to stay here, it may not take long for Anil to destroy us. So you should be able to understand the current situation. I can only do this, and now for me, I can only guarantee everyone's safety. What do you think we should do now? Tony asked Arthur's thoughts while eating. After all, both of them were very good friends, and the others were listening with their ears erected. I want to know how Arthur should be able to help people like them. After all, Arthur also knows quite well about the routes in this nearby sea. Therefore, in this case, it is really only possible to get them out of trouble according to the route Arthur designed for them. There are really many routes in Arthur's mind, but he can also clearly know if he really helped these people, then Anil will never let him go. But these are his best friends. How can they be harmed by Anil? And he has no credibility between Anil and himself. Tony, you saw that there are 3 Anil ships on the sea. Although their draft and carrying capacity are not as big as yours. It has combat ability, but if these 3 ships attack you directly, I think you have no way at all. So what you should do now is to get him 3 or 2 of his ships. There is no way to sail on the sea. because only in this way, you have enough time. We didn't want to continue fighting with them after leaving here, so there is no need for them to be so cruel. So you should take care of it yourself. These words of Arthur also caught everyone's attention, because everyone knew that Arthur would only be single-minded with them, and would not have anything to do with Anil and the others. Find flowers . So everyone felt that Arthur's approach was really great, but these 3 ships or 2 ships, if something really happened, even if he was repairing the ship, Anil had to repair it for a while, and he wanted to prevent the ship from sailing without spoiling their appearance. In fact, there are really many ways, and how can they who are asking for a living on the sea be unclear about such a thing? The reason why Arthur did this was actually just a reminder to everyone. Let me take care of Tony. I think it's better for me to do these things than you do. And there are sharks in this sea area. You should stay on the boat honestly and just unload the propellers of their boats when I go over. Chapter 373. Tony saw that this was his own frogman captain. Arthur also knew his abilities when he said these things. But there were really many sharks in this sea area. So the frogman captain said these words and these things he did. Arthur knew that he could definitely do it, but with the reduction of casualties, if he could make things more perfect, that's the best. Andre, I know your abilities are very strong, but you shouldn't be brave at this time, and you Andre is a very good sailor. It is obvious to all of us, but for your safety, we are only able to use this method now as a last resort. If we can use other methods, there is no need for you to do this kind of underwater homework in the sea. If something really happens, then I will really regret it. Andre's face turned red all of a sudden. He didn't expect Arthur to know himself, and he didn't expect Arthur to speak for his own life. With so much, it really made him particularly unexpected. At the same time, it is the frogman captain of the entire fleet, and his duty is to operate underwater. Moreover, he had already thought of the suggestion that Arthur had put forward, but he hadn't said it yet. Now that Arthur has said it, then he must also help Arthur complete such a task. Only in this way all of their talents can get out of trouble, and only this way all of their talents can leave here, which also makes it unnecessary for them to attack Anil frontally, and they can also escape from this sea area. For everyone, this is the best solution. At this time, Andre had come to the table where Arthur and the other Zet sat next to Arthur, and patted Arthur's shoulder vigorously before he said it. Arthur is really sorry, I know you really want to consider my safety, but you should also be able to understand that as a digging captain, this is what I do. On weekdays, I don't have to go to the battlefield to fight, and I don't have to do other things, but at this time I have to take on my own responsibilities. What's more, what I can do now is to enable everyone to leave together. How can I not do this? Don't worry, I have been on this sea for many years. The world in the sea is also quite familiar to me. As long as I put on a little medicine, the sharks will not smell me, and then they will not find me at all. Besides, we still have some ways to prevent sharks. Arthur looked so confident at this time. Andre also knew that it would be impossible for him to stop him, but he should still plan for them. After all, there are too many sharks in this sea area, and now that the ship is just parked on the shore, their people can easily leave. If you really want to unload the propeller of the opponent's ship, it really requires a certain amount of technology, and it also requires professional personnel. Chapter 374, Andre, don't be arrogant for now, and then we will think of a way to talk about it. Maybe we will use some other methods to keep the propellers from rotating, isn't that all right? And if there is a lot of seaweed hidden on the propeller, can it be turned off, and then it cannot be rotated? We do not need to remove it, because unloading a propeller is really hard work. Just trap a lot of seaweed on his propeller, and some seaweed can be obtained on the shore or in other places. In this way, you only need to get into that sea area, and there is no need for you diggers to be true. Dive to the bottom of the sea. Andre heard Arthur's suggestion, turned and left the restaurant, and their entire frogman team followed him. In the sea, Andre can be said to be a flood dragon, but in the land, Andre is just an ordinary person, so everything in the sea is really very easy for him. If there are not so many seaweeds in this place, Andre also knows where to find those things nearby. Arthur, you are really my lucky star. I didn't expect that after you came here, all the problems would have been solved, and I didn't expect that you Arthur could do so many things. It's great. What do you think in your head? How can we still think of such a method? I really admire you too. Arthur waved his hand and didn't feel anything, because for Arthur, his best friend had to take care of him. After eating, watching Tony leave in a hurry, Arthur also knew that he wanted to leave here earlier, and it could be seen that neither Anil nor her took advantage this time. Ibuprofen, you two should hurry up and do your own things. Don't worry about me. It's not an outsider. You hurry up and do your own things. I was watching Anil's situation on the deck for a while, and then I gave you some ideas to continue. As Arthur and Ibufeni were talking, there was no one in the restaurant anymore, and Arthur watched everyone leave in a hurry. She also knew that everyone really had a lot of things, so he didn't want to waste much time in this, and she also knew that Ibuprofen had his own things to do. There was no need to continue to accompany him, so Arthur let Ibuprofen leave. And there are many people in this cabin. They are busy with their own affairs. After Arthur stayed here for a while, he also hurried to the deck. After all, with so many enemies outside, how could Arthur stay on the boat alone? What's more, he also knows what kind of person Anil is, so he knows all this in his heart better than anyone else. If Anil really took advantage of their eating effort to directly attack, then all of them would be wiped out at once. What's more, when he was before Anil, an officer and soldier were also very skillful in using these art of war, and the experience of naval warfare is quite rich. Mime Private 375. So in this case, you must always be vigilant at all times. Arthur came to the deck, watching that Tony was standing by the campfire on the beach and Anil was facing off there. He didn't know what the two people said because the distance was too far away. Arthur couldn't hear what they were saying, but it could be seen that the two of them had already quarreled happily. He took out his binoculars and looked at the situation on Anil's side at this time, and found that Anil was really embarrassed, although he had 3 ships that could catch them. But Anil didn't want to leave here at all, but wanted the mining rights to those gold mines. Now he really wants to drive Tony out of this sea. It's just that his method didn't work very well, and he didn't know what Tony was thinking now. So Anil was also a little anxious at this time. The telescope linear actually saw Arthur staying on his original big ship, and the current ship was also occupied by Tony. This also made him feel very shocked. He didn't expect that Arthur had already joined hands with Tony, so he must die. Arthur, our peace contract is not counted so far. If it counts, I hope you will not participate in it. This is a matter between me and the pirate in front of me. It has nothing to do with you. What does he have to do? Seeing Chiyu Arthur, who Anil called, he was really speechless. He clearly didn't have a peace agreement with him, and he just didn't want to be involved in this matter, so he reached a preliminary agreement with him, and now he's hitting the rest in front of so many people and asking himself, this is to push himself foremost. Brittany was also standing behind Arthur at this time. Of course he could understand what these words meant. After all, these words were common to both pirates and officers and soldiers. Arthur looked at his hand. There is also a sea training flag inside. Reached out and took the flag, and started playing his own semaphore. What do you want to do between the two of you? That's your own business. Don't involve me in it, and I'm on this ship. What do you think is the relationship between me and them? What is the relationship between me and you? There is no need for both sides to hurt each other here. Anil saw the words Arthur typed in the telescope, and after that, he was relieved. After all, she was a talker. Moreover, Arthur could already say that now, so it means that he himself will not take advantage of the fire, and he will not take advantage of the danger, which also makes Anil a little balanced in his heart. If Arthur really used this opportunity to take advantage of the promise human danger and fight for the mining rights of this gold mine, then he would be equal to the enemy. Now that Arthur didn't say such a thing, it shows that he really didn't want to have some conflict with himself, which also enabled it to concentrate on dealing with the Tony in front of him. Grave accent diaresis. What does Arthur Anil mean by these words? Did you sign any agreement with him? Chapter 376. Looking at the ibuprofen at this time, Arthur told him how he got on the ship and how he went to tell Anil. All these things were told to him. After all, good friends must not have any problems at this time, and it is impossible to harm each other in this situation. And after hearing what Arthur said, ibuprofen felt that it was at this time it was really shameless, and it was really too hard for him to believe. At this time, Arthur was forced to make a decision, and he had nothing to do with these things, so why bother with her? For a sinister villain like Arthur, you must not be familiar with him, and you don't have to say anything to such a person. What's more, I think that if you are really familiar with him, it means that you still have something in your heart, so that person like him will take advantage of the fire. Now it is not necessary at all. Arthur nodded and stayed on the boat quietly. At this time, the two sides didn't know what had happened. They saw Tony had already led someone to quickly run towards Anil. Is Bro Finney and the others really going to fight together? Really? Why can't it be resolved peacefully? That Anil is a terrifying and powerful person. Although it is a bit embarrassing now, you must know that his person is really not merciful, and his hands are quite black when he fights. You tell Tony to be careful. Ibuprofen knows Tony very well, and he has seen some of Anil's methods just now, so it just smiled at Arthur's worry at this time. Don't worry, when will Tony that kid lose in a fight? It's not that you didn't see Anil at this time. In fact, it was a powerful offense. He didn't have that much ability at all. You didn't see how we beat her when we were in the forest. So now I think Tony wants to fight with him. It's just to delay Andra's time. You should know by now that Andre has actually been in the sea long ago. So the current Tony is just to create an illusion for them. Arthur nodded. If this is an illusion, it would be great. Otherwise, if you really start your hands, I don't know how many people will die because of it. Arthur now found that he was no longer willing to watch such a tragic war scene, and in the past, Arthur could not wait to choose a sharp head and want to participate in it. But now I really only want to open up a new route. It is the best thing to get along with these pirates in peace. If you can't, you can walk around them, unless Arthur is forced to show his ability. Suddenly, Arthur saw that Tony had been entangled by Anil. At this time, Anil seemed to be cruel, trying to keep Tony all the time, no matter what kind of moves have been used. And Arthur saw that Tony had already retreated at this time. He really didn't know whether it was their strategy or Tony really had nothing to do at this time. Mime Private 377. Arthur really felt special when he saw such a thrilling scene. Fear of this cut, if it is true. It was about to kill Tony. Then even if he is immortal, he has to pick up his skin, and think about it in such a place. If there is no certain medical condition, he will undoubtedly die if he escapes today. Seeing Tony at this time was like a wanderer. Like a fish. It's pasted all at once. Gao Feng hid, and after Arthur patted his chest vigorously for a few times, he comforted his heart that was about to jump out of his chest. This kind of scene is really too exciting for him. Arthur now feels that if he can really go up and fight on his own, it would be much better than fearing people like them here. And the scenes below were a bit out of control all of a sudden. Arthur could see them. Now they are really angry, and it can be seen that people like them will never give up. After seeing this situation, Arthur felt that he really shouldn't have said so much, because Tony had already been beaten up at this time, and he is definitely not able to do what he thought just now, and he will never let Anil go now. So at this time, Arthur really felt that he had done a big mistake. If they were not able to leave here, then all that Tony had done could only be buried with him, Anil. But Tony's character, Arthur, is really too understanding. Even if he were to sleep and die in this place, he would never let Anil get better, so that both sides hurt. Arthur couldn't help but regret it. Seeing Anil's losing streak, Arthur couldn't help but clap his hands in applause. It was so far away, Surely no one could heart Arthur's words. But Arthur's action made Ibefeni, who was standing next to him, feel particularly funny. He didn't know when Arthur was so soft-hearted. And at this time, if Arthur shoots black guns like before, then he will be in trouble. Anil must have no idea how many times he has died. 0 middle dot middle dot find flowers middle dot middle dot. But now that I saw that Arthur was able to let Anil be so kind, I didn't know what Arthur should think. Arthur, how can you let Anil go this time? I didn't expect you to treat him so kindly like this. Do you just want to move your mouth and let others do it? 0 Didn't you, Arthur, believe in doing it yourself? Why don't you do this all of a sudden now? Before, you were like a desperate Saburo, no matter what place you want to go by yourself. But now there is nothing like that anymore. It is really hard for me to figure out what you think in Arthur's heart. Arthur looked at the ibuprofen in front of him very deeply. Although he knew that there was no malice in his heart, he just asked the questions in his heart. But for Arthur, he really didn't want to treat his friends like this, although this time he didn't count Anil. Second, Mime Private 378. At the same time, he didn't calculate Tony, but in the eyes of ibuprofen, he was already calculating them, which really made it Arthur. I felt very uncomfortable in my heart, not to mention that if he really calculated which of them, the other party would definitely be very happy. At the same time, they can win the battle. Not to mention the gold mine they got this time, but the gold mining rights that can make people lost. But what he didn't care about was these, and even if the gold was mined, what does it have to do with him? Arthur did not have the ability to mine these gold mines, and he did not have the ability to hold these things. And he didn't have so many thoughts on Arthur. He wanted to dominate the sea. He just wanted to find one island after another, then connect them all in series, so that you can see more beautiful scenery, and then you can find more sailing routes. This can also find a way out for everyone, and Arthur doesn't have so many ambitions at all, so for such things, he himself doesn't need to think so much and calculate so much. But the words of a good friend also let Arthur know deeply that he was such an image in their minds. When they didn't do it, they thought they were doing it. So what would they think when they were doing it on weekdays? Although Arthur could understand that they were sincerely with him, but his own behavior really couldn't make them believe in him completely. Ibuprofen, you said what you said really made me feel very uncomfortable in my heart. We are all good friends. In the past, I calculated which of you friends must have treat each other with sincerity. There are not so many twists and turns that can keep friendship from being destroyed. So now I have never thought of anything else, and now I just want to live well. What happened this time was not caused by me, and at the same time, what happened this time was not what I wanted. What's more, I don't think so much now. I just want to figure out who I want to leave this island. As for these things between you and Anil, I don't even want to participate in it. If I want to participate in it, do you think about whether you people can still stay in front of me? We have been good friends for so many years, and we are people who don't distinguish each other at all. You said how could I help Anil without helping Tony? The reason why I didn't shoot a black gun was just because I felt like a man. Since the war between them has already been faced face to face, is it not good to resolve it face to face? Does it have to be such a black gun to be able to win? You don't believe me like this. Still don't believe Tony? Ibuprofen, you didn't think that one of your own words has already attracted Arthur? With so many words, it is just a little curious, and there is no other idea at all. He also knows these words of his own may have made Arthur a little misunderstood. Chapter 379. Ibuprofen shook his hand quickly, and at the same time the nervous expression on his face was already revealed. Arthur, I didn't mean that. I was just a little curious. I didn't say anything. You don't have the need to say everything so unbearably. And can we really only get along in this way? We are all good friends, and I apologize to you for what I just said. Although Arthur was talking to the two of Brofani in her mouth, her eyes were still watching the scenes below. Suddenly he saw Anel's knife, which had really been attached to Thomas' body. After Arthur threw the binoculars aside quickly, he shouted at O2 ibuprofen. Tony is injured. Let's rescue him together. If we don't save it, it will be too late in a while. I seldom saw Arthur look so nervous, so now that he heard these words from Arthur, he also ran down with Arthur. There was still a certain distance from the beach on their boat, so when Arthur ran to Thomas' side, he found that Tony had really been seriously injured. A knife has been cut on his stomach, the clothes at this time have also been cut, and the wound on his stomach looks very hideous. At this time, Tony is holding his stomach with one hand, but the other is still take the knife in his hand. Arthur took it from Thomas' hand, and said to the knife that had been spilled on the side, "What are you doing in a daze? Take him back to this place and give it to me quickly. Take the other people and retreat quickly." Maybe Andra's side has already done everything. At this time, Anil watched that Arthur had already received the initiative in his own hands. He was very unbelievable that the kid in front of him had come on the same boat as her, and he had already reached a certain agreement with him, and such a pool of muddy water. This kid had said that he would never lie down, but now it was for such a pirate. He actually broke his vow. This is really hard for Anil to believe. Why did Arthur make such a decision? What's more, he has made up his mind today that he must leave the pirate leader on this beach. Arthur, are you really sure you want to do this? Do you want to be such an enemy of me? Are you really going to save this man? Is he really worth it? Do you know who he is? He is the notorious Tony. In such a sea area, he is a well-known figure, and he is a pirate leader. What's more, in such a place, he has discovered the secret here. You said how can I let it leave so easily? So you still don't care about this nosy? If there is something we will wait until I clean up him, we will talk about it, okay? Anil was so eager to kill Tony. It seems that there are some changes in it. I don't know what happened between Anil and Tony. But Arthur felt that he really couldn't help seeing his good friend get injured like this, and seeing her hurt so badly. Mime Private 380. If you don't get medical treatment, it may not take long before you die in such a place. Or put the knife across his chest. Such a move also showed his Arthur's firmness in this matter. Anil, I want to ask now, what kind of capacity do you do in this matter? Do you still think you are the general of the previous navy? No, in fact, you are just a notorious pirate like him. Just a little arrogant in your own heart. You are not allowed to admit it yourself. Do you still think you are an upright navy? That is simply impossible. So don't think of others as nasty, but think of yourself so well. You and her are both equated. We are friends who have known each other for many years. How do you think I could be? Because you ignore him, they just want to leave this sea area now, let alone the so-called secret. Doesn't everyone here know? Why do you need to keep it? If you have the ability, take advantage of the time when they are away, and take advantage of your so-called treasures. Can't it be enough? Moreover, it takes many days for us to sail on the sea, so you should let him go. In this way, we will not have to meet each other with swordsmen and soldiers. Anil took a look, and Arthur took another look at this time. Tony was already seriously injured. It was really hard for him to imagine why Tony had a good partner like Arthur. And even though Anil didn't know Arthur's abilities, he could already have the kind of excitement that burst from Arthur's eyes. He knew exactly how Arthur longed for a hearty battle with himself. But at this time, Anil would never pay attention to Arthur. After Anil waved his hand casually, Arthur led everyone back slowly. After everyone had returned to the boat, Tony had also been placed in a very large room. At this time, Andre had already returned to the ship. After Arthur glanced at them, came to Thomas' room. At this time Thomas' shirt had been taken off, and his incision had appeared in front of everyone. There was no doctor on this ship. Everyone has a small injury on weekdays, so you can only apply some medicine casually. But now the wound for desilting is really too big, and the most important thing is this kind of wound. People looked very hideous. Looking at the frantic ibuprofen, Arthur went straight up and pushed it aside, and then took out a lot of wound medicine from a cabinet next to it. But although these medicines are very good hemostatic medicines, they were put on Tony's body, and they didn't work at all. When they didn't use them for a while, They got rid of the blood from the wound. The medicine rushed out. Grievance and diaresis, this is not the way to go. Ibuprofen, you go find me a needle and some thread, and you have to find me some spirits. I had seen Arthur suture their wounds before, although the feeling at the time was very painful. Mime Private 381. But fortunately, the wound can heal quickly, so now that she heard what Arthur said, she also quickly left the room. Tony's consciousness is still quite clear. He saw that Arthur's seriousness really only had trust and nothing else. With a calculating look, Tony had sincerely regarded Arthur as his life and death brother at this time. Tony, don't look at me with that look. I really can't bear your look like that. I'm not as good as you think. At the same time, the reason for saving you is because we are in the same boat. If I leave you, maybe I may not be able to leave here alive. So although this kind of relationship between us can also be regarded as life and death together, it can also be regarded as I saved you. But you are like this. The look in the eyes really makes me a little unbearable. These words of Arthur were amused at once, and Tony also amused some people next to him. You must know that the relationship between Arthur, Tony and Ibuprofen is the most harmonious on this boat. And Arthur only knew them. As for Andre and the others, although it can be regarded as acquaintance, it is definitely not good enough to make jokes casually. What's more, most of the pirates on the ship are pirates. The person whose head is pinned to the waistband. So everyone's personality is very tough, and most of the people on this pirate ship speak by the size of their fists. So at this time, these words of Arthur really made everyone couldn't help laughing. Ibuprofen held a large wine barrel in his hand, then took some needles and thread, and Arthur saw his clumsy look. I couldn't help but quickly took the things in her hand, and then found a big bowl. The wine in the barrel was poured directly into the bowl, and asked at the same time, "Is the alcohol of this wine the highest here? Who has matches there? Can you please light this wine for me?" It was ignited. Arthur threw the needle and thread in his hand directly into the wine, and at the same time poured a large bowl of wine in the wine barrel, and then washed his hands with the wine. All the people looked at the way Arthur was at this time, and their teeth were itchy. You should know that they are not allowed to drink at all during the week. For people like them, being able to drink a little bit of wine is the greatest reward for them. But now Arthur treats them as treasures, and the good things are wasted in this way. This is too great. Damn it. And everyone didn't know what Arthur did this for, only saw Arthur took a cloth and covered it on the wine bowl, and the fire in the wine bowl was extinguished all at once. Use this cloth to gently wipe the wounds on your body, and wipe off all the blood that flows out. At this time, the cloth has turned blood red. Slowly poured a little wine on the wound, and Tony couldn't help but want to scream loudly. Arthur took another piece of cloth next to it and stuffed it directly into Tony's mouth. But at this moment Tony's bitter gaze made Arthur couldn't bear to look straight. Retract your gaze, or don't blame my subordinates for being merciless for a while. Mime Private 382. At this time the needle has also been soaked. Arthur took it out and twisted it slightly with his hand, and it turned into a hook. After putting on the needle, Arthur found that he still had his own experience in stitching, and everyone saw what Arthur looked like. They couldn't help being surprised, and they watched Arthur just like that, stitching up the wound little by little. All people can feel it. How does it feel like the needle sticks to Tony's body? At this time Tony's body had completely collapsed. Because Tony's body muscles have undergone some changes, it makes it very difficult for Arthur to sew. It makes her feel that her needle cannot be inserted into the flesh. This also makes Arthur feel very uncomfortable. After all, I had spent so much effort, but I couldn't touch the flesh at all. And this really couldn't continue like this. Arthur glanced helplessly, and Tony asked afterwards, "Can you take it easy? What do you want me to do if you do? I can't get you off at all. And the more you do, see what your muscles have become now. What do you say I should do? You hurry up to relax a little bit for me. Tang also gives me a hurry, otherwise the wound will not be sealed at all." Tony heard what Arthur said. He really wanted to stand up directly. He hit Arthur with a punch. Arthur couldn't feel the pain. At the same time, He had to say these cold words, which really made Tony feel particularly hateful. Your kid is really hateful. Do you know what this pain means to me? Do you know what it will be like when you hit me with this needle? How can you, brat, say to me like this? Do you know what pain I have become like now? Of course Arthur could know how painful Tony was at this time, but there was no way he had to endure it at this time, not to mention that there was no anesthetic in this place, and he could only do that. I still don't know how you can feel the pain, but now do you know that it is impossible for you to do this? And do you know this situation? 0 middle dot middle dot find flowers middle dot if you don't suture you down, your wound will be very troublesome at the end, so I can only do this, and you should be able to understand. I am actually really very good. I feel sorry for you. If I change to another person, do you think I will pay attention to them? And what does their willingness to rise and death have to do with me? You don't want to arrange it there? Okay. It is very difficult for me to do this to you. Tony looked at Arthur's face at this time and his face was not particularly good. He also knew in his heart that Arthur was a little angry, but he was really in pain. Arthur spilled the wine on Thomas' wound again, and such a stimulus also made the detached wound feel a very painful sensation, which was transmitted to Thomas' brain. Tell you if you want to continue like this, then I can only let people knock you out. Then you will fall into my hands. I don't care who you are, then you will not think how I treated you well. Chapter 383, Tony knew that Arthur was a person who did what he said, so he didn't want to let himself pass out like this now, and he had to know that if he really passed out at this time, then he really didn't know what the year of the monkey was. And I ask you to know your current situation. If it really has passed, then there will definitely be rebellion among them. These people of his own, he knows better than anyone else, and how can he not know what kind of people are in these people of his own? I was well awake, people like them could still be suppressed, and if something happened to them, these people would be able to come out as demon immediately. At this time, he must stay awake, or else all of them will die in Anil's hands. And he managed to save himself from Arthur, so how can he let him do these things for himself? Worry about it? Don't worry, Arthur, I will make it through. Although the pain made him only gritted his teeth, Arthur could see that Tony had already done all his strength at this time. Arthur's stitching went very smoothly. After he finally stitched up Thomas' big wound, everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief and put medicine on Thomas' bandage. Arthur didn't need to do this kind of thing himself. Ibuprofen has done it alone, and the rest of these things. Anil at this time had already stood under the ship. He knew that Arthur was a very capable person, and he also knew that Arthur would definitely save Tony. And the reason why he stayed in this place was to see what Arthur thought, whether he followed the gold mines mined here by people like them, or he followed Tony. At this moment a sailor suddenly walked in outside the door. After looking at everyone blankly, he said, "Someone outside Arthur is looking for you. That is Anil. He said that he needs you to go out and see him for something." At this time Tony was already very weak. Arthur really wanted to give him a good rest, but at this time he did not need to take over the command of this ship. Just take advantage of the time to let Tony give orders by himself. And he happens to be going to meet Anil for a while. Tony, take a good rest. This ship is still relatively safe now, and if your people see that you are not dead now, they will definitely stop a little too. I'm going to see now to see what's going on with Anil, and then we'll have a discussion when we come back. If you can sleep for a while, then go to sleep. It just so happens that Ibuprofen and Andre are watching here, and they can make some decisions about what you have. After Arthur finished speaking, he left the cabin directly. It was not that he did not see Thomas' eyes, but for Arthur at this time, the life or death of these people on this ship has nothing to do with them, and she didn't stay here so forcibly for anyone else, and they don't need to look at that kind of moral kidnapping with oneself. And now he really wanted to see what Anil thought, and see if he could let them go. Mime Private 384. After arriving on the deck of the cabin, Arthur looked at Anil at this time, standing there arrogantly, and around him stood many folks on the floating island. "Does Anil have anything to do with me?" Anil raised his head and looked at Arthur in front of him. He looked at him with disbelief. The scary look of this little boy just now is really the kind of maliciousness that this little boy exudes in front of him. Now looking at his harmless human and animal appearance, did he really read it wrong at the time? As for the folks on the floating island, they had already heard what Anil had told them about Arthur. "I really didn't expect Arthur O2 to be so close to the pirates, and he actually saved the pirates. You must know that these islands are very scary one by one on weekdays, and they are all victims if they are not pirates this time." How could Anil be so embarrassed? "Arthur, how can you mix with these pirates? Didn't you come out to fish with us? Didn't we come to this island just to rest? Why do you stay with those pirates? Get off the ship as soon as possible. Let's rest for a few days to go fishing. When we get the tuna back, we can go back. There are so many people waiting for us on the floating island." Woolen cloth. Arthur looked at Anil, but he didn't expect that he hadn't told the innocent folks in front of him the actual situation. And these people actually believed that Anil was still the general of the navy, and believed that they just needed rest on this island. Now looking at their righteous remarks against him, Arthur can only laugh. And Arthur's laughter made everyone feel as if Arthur was going crazy. It's just this kind of laughter. For his Arthur, he himself knows better than anyone else. What does this mean? Anil, can't it be that at this time, you still can't tell all the things to these innocent folks? What on earth did you come to this island for? You know better than me in your heart. Are you really asking me to say everything? Or the folks you told yourself don't treat everyone as fools, and you don't treat everyone as someone you can manipulate at will? I don't want to say so much. It doesn't mean that I am really a fool myself. Such words made the folks on the floating islands below the ship feel inexplicable. They really don't know why Arthur would say something like this, and they all felt that there were other meanings in Arthur's words. Everyone looked at Anil, standing next to him. At this time, Anil was still aloof. "Arthur, let's know that people don't talk secretly, so let's say what you think, and we can discuss it. Do you really want to leave with these pirates? You know they are really real this time. It has already been hit hard." Chapter 385. Looks like this at this time. Anil also wanted to threaten himself in that long talk. Arthur really didn't know who gave her such courage, and Arthur didn't know who could make him so confident. Do you really treat others as fools? Think of himself as an extraordinary, smart person? Doesn't he still understand what he said? This is too much to make Arthur look down on him. And when he watched him halfway through his words, Arthur could see what he needed to say next. How could a smart person like Arthur let him finish the rest? Forget it, Anil. Stop talking about those useless nonsense. I know what your thoughts are at this time, but I want to tell you, we are just meeting together. The floating island and I only stayed there for a few days. Do you know what you call these pirates and how they are related to me? We are brothers who live and die together. And when we were together, you people still didn't know which clawed frog country you were in. So now you can understand what I think. They are my best brothers. I will never give up on them. You should take someone to do your own thing. I assure you that they will not come back here. At the same time, I also hope you can do it for yourself. After all, the patriarch is still a good person. You really let him know what you did. Do you think he will be very sad? After Arthur finished speaking, he left the bow, and when Anil looked at the pace that Arthur was leaving, his heart itched with hatred. At the same time, he also knew that what Arthur said was the truth, and even Arthur had done what he did with these pirates. This kind of friendship between has already told myself. And now Anil can also understand that Arthur is going to coexist and die with these pirates. Looking at Arthur who turned to leave, Anil shouted loudly, "Arthur, I know what I said is awkward, but I want to tell you, if you really choose to be with them, then don't blame me for being impolite. Since you have to choose to die with them, then I might as well fulfill you." Arthur walked a few steps. After hearing such a voice, he stood on the bow again. Looking at such an arrogant Anil, Arthur really felt that such a man, if he really didn't scare him. He really didn't know that Lord Ma had 3 eyes. Quietly took out a gun from his pocket, and pointed it at Anil. After a bang, the hat on Anil's head was blown off. At this time, Anil had already squatted on the ground in fright. Blowing lightly, the still smoking barrel, Arthur pointed the gun at Anil and said, "Grave accent diaresis Anil no good, don't give you a face, shameless, I can let you off today. It's just because the patriarch is a very good old man. I don't want him to experience the pain of bereavement at such an old age. If you continue to be unreasonably entangled in this way, don't blame me for shooting you. If I, Arthur, can hit your hat, then I can kill you with a single shot. Don't take what I say as wind, I will really do it." Chapter 386. Listening to Arthur's arrogant words, Anil can only leave here with his own people in a hurry. After reaching a safe distance, Arthur didn't know if Anil was really annoyed or what it was, but Arthur could see through the telescope that Anil had really jumped his feet with anger. After these people in the cabin heard the gunfire outside, they all ran out quickly to see what was going on. They just saw Arthur on the deck alone. "What are you not seeing?" But when they heard what Arthur said, they couldn't help but stick out their thumbs. Tony looked at several important members in the house when Arthur was leaving. Although there were many words in his heart, he also knew that Arthur had saved him again this time. "Andre Brofani, I was injured this time. How is the situation on your side? Tell me, and while I am still awake, let me know if you are already ready." NS. Andre nodded, and after telling Tony everything about going underwater, he saw that her face had a relaxed feeling. After all, the 2 ships did not have the ability to pursue her anymore. It's already a blessing. It is actually very dangerous for them to stay on this beach, so Tony at this time wants to listen to Arthur's opinion. If Arthur has no ideas, then they can go back to the place where they usually live when they leave together, and then take a good care of their injuries. This time they have come out and have already made a lot of gold. Enough for everyone to go back and stay for a while. Ibuprofen, you and Arthur have the best relationship. When he comes back, you can ask us if we can go back with us now, and if he can go back with us, let her go with us as much as possible. It would be very troublesome for someone like him to stay here, and that Anil would never treat her kindly. Not to mention that Arthur really helped us this time. If it weren't for him, we might have all accounted for it here. You have been on the boat and you don't know how terrifying Anil is. And he used to be a general of the Navy, and he hated us pirates. If it weren't for their generals, with so much selfishness one by one, he would not degenerate into a pirate. But in his bones he really was an empire general. Andre only met Arthur before, and never got along with him, so he didn't know anything about Arthur's personality. But now watching Tony value Arthur so much, she also felt very curious that a person like Arthur was just a little kid at first sight. "Why can I get Tony and ibuprofen is so important? It really makes him feel particularly unreal. Not to mention that he also knows that a person like Tony will never keep someone easily. And Tony is also a very arrogant person. No one can make him like that. There is no one who fancy this can make him want to stay so much." Chapter 387. Tony, what is the sacredness of Arthur? Can you tell me? I think he is really a very magical person, and when you stay with her, you can feel his personality charm, and at the same time let those who stay with him can feel his sincerity and ability. And I think his ability is also very strong. No matter what, he will not lose for you. Hearing the words of praise to Arthur, Tony also nodded directly for his friend. He knew better than anyone what kind of ability he had. At the same time, he knew better than anyone, if Arthur could really do it. If you join them, then Arthur's ability will definitely become a famous pirate leader all over the world. It's just that his Arthur's is not like that, not to mention that he is not such a person. So these talents can make some famous names in such a sea area. At the same time, Arthur also made a pusher behind them. If it were not for such a person, he would never have your current position if he drags you down. Andre, what you said is really true. You don't know how powerful Arthur is, and you don't know how indifferent Arthur is. After you stay with him, you will gradually be attracted by him, and you will gradually be dormant by his charm. These people of us became friends with him because of this, and his person can also let you always see how weak you are in front of him small. At the same time, you are willing to stay by his side. After a long time, you will be able to know why I value him so much. Haven't you seen it now? Anil asked him to talk about the results. What results can be discussed? Then only the two of them can know clearly. You don't have to think about it. He will definitely stay with us. Let our people get ready up and sail. Only when I leave here can my heart become more stable, and the following unstable factors can also be reduced by this. Arthur just walked into the shipyard with some of these paintings. He didn't want to eavesdrop on the earrings outside. He had already heard it unknowingly. Tony's evaluation of himself. 0 find flowers . When he walked in and watched Tony endure his physical discomfort, while still chatting with a few other people, Arthur was really a little angry. After all, he has lost a lot of blood now, and this time is just when he needs a rest, but watching him still look so awkward and crooked. Arthur couldn't help but wanted to slap him a few times, but he knew it. There must be many things to worry about when leaving, but he still had to say what he should say, otherwise Arthur felt that would make him very suffocated, and he was not a person who could make himself forbearing. Tony, if you don't want your life, you can just say okay. But don't be like this here. I've saved you once. I don't want to save you again next time. You have to know that in this vast ocean, the reason why I did this was just to save your life. So you kid, don't take this life of yours seriously. Second. Chapter 388. These people in the room looked at Arthur at this time with a little hard to believe, knowing that their Tony boss has always been a neophyte person, and no one has ever dared to yell like this in front of him. But looking at Arthur is so calm. It is not like knowing that he is in trouble. And it's hard for them all. I believe that Tony, who is smiling in front of him, is really their own boss. That's right, Tony really has the kind of smile that makes it hard to believe that it is similar to flattering. Don't be angry, Arthur. I know you saved my life, and I also know that you have scared Anil away at this time. But you must know that this place really can't stay any longer. And I can't faint in this place. So there is no other way, but I can only insist on holding you back. The outside things are already done, right? Now I will make Andre ready to set sail for us to leave here. Arthur sat in a chair next to him and took a look at the situation. Tony nodded. Everyone could see how tired Arthur was at this time, and after he sat in the chair, the tiredness on his face had already appeared in front of everyone. Ibuprofen really felt sorry for Arthur and Tony at this time. After nodding at Andre quickly left the cabin. Ibuprofen, please put me a boat in this cabin. I'm here to watch. Tony is still a little worried about his current situation. If he gets a fever for a while, I will be in trouble. Is there any medicine in the boat? He'll prescribe a prescription for a while, and wait until I drag you a while, and I will be able to boil the medicine out when I really want to use it. Ibuprofen held the paper and pen in his hand and handed it to Arthur's hand, and then saw Arthur open one. Fangs then passed it to his hand. Look for these medicines now, then boil them out and undress them. This will speed up the healing of its wounds and prevent some infections at the same time. Otherwise, in this vast ocean, if he really has a fever, we really have nothing to do. And tell Andre to sail quickly, or else when Anil really regrets it, I can't be able to stop him. 0. Holding this prescription in your hand feels heavy with ibuprofen, because it is not only related to Tony's life and death, but also related to whether all of them can leave here alive. And several important people in the room looked at Arthur and Tony at this time. Both looked very hard, and they all felt that it was a bit of a hindrance to stay here. So several people left here one after another. When everyone left here, Tony showed a tired smile on his face. Arthur, I owe you another life. Arthur didn't care, and shook his head. It's still necessary between the two of us. Isn't that possible? If it is true, then I tell you, There is no need for these hypocritical words between the two of us. If I really want to listen to these words, then I don't have to be just you, am I? Why is this kind of friendship between us so hypocritical? After waiting for the medicine to come back, you can sleep for a while after you drink it. I will guard you by the side. Mime Private 389. I took the medicine in the hand of ibuprofen and walked away. After entering, when he saw Tony and Arthur at this time, the two were honestly waiting for her medicine. After reaching out and passing it to Tony's hand, watching Tony drank all these medicines into his stomach at once. I said, Tony, are you not afraid that I will put you some poison in this medicine? Are you really not afraid of this? I know you trust me very much. But shouldn't you be more careful at this time? Don't think about people so well. Although we are friends for so many years, what if one day my conscience suddenly finds out that it will treat you badly? Tony looked at the ibuprofen at this time, really felt that the brat-o-two in front of him was too speechless, and he wanted to wear a pair of pants on weekdays. How could he suddenly say such a thing now? Not to mention that Anil personally prescribes these medicines, and he himself took the ibuprofen. How could he not trust them? I said, your kid is talking about this. What can't we talk about for such a long time, buddy? And will this kind of friendship between us fail to disintegrate because of a little bit of little things? Or do you mean that you have betrayed me? We are all relatives who live and die together, so why bother to talk about these useless nonsense? Among our good brothers, there are only you and me who have gone recently. You said I don't trust you. Who can I trust? Ibuprofen looked at Tony's mouth at this time, and didn't say anything under the mouth, but watched the effect of the medicine slowly had its effect. He just covered Tony with the quilt, and said to Arthur, Arthur, let's go out. Let him stay here and take a rest at this time. He is really too tired. Arthur knew that ibuprofen was hurting Tony. At the same time, he also knew that ibuprofen must have something to say to himself, or else I would rely on someone like ibuprofen. He would never speak much, and he would never say anything else at this time, so the current Arthur silently followed ibuprofen and left the room. After the two of them came to ibuprofen's room, ibuprofen knelt down to Arthur all at once. Arthur, please, you must save him, okay? I know you have this ability, and I also know that you really and our brothers are sincere. So now I beg you, I don't know who I should talk to about this topic on this boat, because everyone is panicking now. After all, he has already suffered such a severe injury. If something happens, all of us will be very sad. And you also know that it's really not easy for us friends to stay together. If it weren't because we couldn't live, how could we come here together? So please. Arthur stretched out his hand and directly helped the ibuprofen up. After so many years of good friends, how can they not know what kind of character each other is like? Mime Private 390. And now the kneeling of ibuprofen has already made Arthur feel very uncomfortable in his heart. Everyone is a good friend, and there is no need to face his friends in such a state. Ibuprofen, we have been good friends for so many years. If you have any words, just say it directly. Why do you need to be like this? Do you not know my character, or do you not know my character? The more you are like this, what should you do in my heart? How do you think I can help him without doing my best? And he is a good friend of mine. We have stayed together for so many years, and the friendship between us is understandable without you saying it. What's more, you can understand the relationship between us, so don't use such a way to embarrass me, okay? When I was able to save him, when I was able to help him, when did I not take care of him? You don't need to thank me in such a way when you are together, and you don't use such a way to face him, facing me. It is worthy of ibuprofen's some anxiety, because he knows that Arthur is telling the truth, and because he also knows how good Arthur is to him. But now that he is trying to persecute him in this way, there is really no way he can do it, because he is too scared. If something really goes wrong with the separation, then he stays on this ship alone. It really is, it's called loneliness and helplessness. Now that Arthur can understand himself in this way at this time, he feels satisfied. Arthur comforted the ibuprofen at this time for a while, and after letting its excitement recover some, Arthur left the room. When he returned to Thomas' room, Arthur saw that he was already sweating slightly. This is really great, because the body's functions are slowly recovering. And Arthur saw that Tony was not feverish, and he was really relieved. Lying next to Tony, slowly, he squinted his eyes, because of Thomas' thing he had really felt in his own heart. Very sad. And he can also clearly know that in this situation, he really has no way to stay in a boat, and he can't die without saving. So now I can only endure it silently. From the moment he was rescued, he was tied to everyone. Originally, he thought that he could stay out of the matter. Now it seems that he is really helpless. While dazed, Arthur felt that someone had entered the room. He suddenly opened his eyes and saw someone approaching Thomas' bed, holding a knife in his hand and piercing directly at Tony, who was sleeping. Arthur lifted his foot and kicked it directly on the man's wrist, and the knife fell on the ground. At this time, the man was already facing Arthur Lunuozawa and stayed with him. Arthur saw that this person didn't know him, and he didn't know if it was the person on the ship. But for Arthur at this time, he really would never allow such a thing to happen in front of him. The two fought together, and the ibuprofen in the next room had already heard the sound and ran over quickly. Tony, who was originally asleep, had already opened his eyes at this time. Chapter 391. With such a loud noise, how could he fall asleep easily? So at this time, Arthur looked at him like this, and he was relieved. Now that everyone is awake, then these people on this ship must be. He wouldn't spare the man in front of him, so now Arthur opened his body directly, watching them fight together. Arthur was really speechless. Obviously everyone is very familiar with each other on weekdays, but now they are still so incapable of letting go. How could this be for Arthur? I had the heart to look at them like this. And Arthur at this time could also see that ibuprofen was still scrupulous. As for what kind of relationship does ibuprofen have with such a person, Arthur didn't know. But, watching him constantly at this time, while dodging, Arthur discovered that there must be something wrong with this person, otherwise it would never be presented to him like this. Just now, he was still worrying about it in a pretentious manner. How could Donna's body have been assassinated by Tony now? But he could ignore it so much. Stop it, you two. Ibuprofen and the man stopped their hands at once. When the two of them looked at the expression on Donna's face at this time, both people knew that Tony was really sad this time, and Tony would definitely not spare them both this time. Ibuprofen knelt on the ground all of a sudden, watching Tony crying bitterly at this time. The worry in Donna's heart was already on his face, but what was the thought in his heart? Whether it is the same as the face, it remains to be examined in the heart of the witness. Ibuprofen has been a friend of ours for many years. Why did you make such a choice at this time? You can obviously take him down all at once. Why does it have to be so procrastinated? Do you know if you look like this will really cause me a lot of harm? Do you know what your appearance means to me? Let's stop talking about these useless nonsense between our friends. Let's stand up and talk about something. There is gold under the knees of men. I have taught you before and never let you kneel to others casually. But why do you want to be like this? Do you really think you can get something by begging for their help? Don't worry, the more you are like this, no one will care about you. This kind of prayer, and no one will see you when you are so humble. You will pay more attention to what you are. All the dignity of people depends on their own efforts to achieve them. At this time Tony already felt that he was a little exhausted, but his good friend still couldn't understand the status quo. He didn't care. How exactly did Ibuprofen betray him? But now looking at his solemnity, Tony really feels that his teachings for so many years have been wasted. Moreover, he is still in such a state of unclearness, which is really too worrying. If he is allowed to leave his ship in such a state, it won't be possible for this kid to be outside every minute. It was eaten dry. Chapter 392. Ibuprofen stood up and looked at Arthur and Tony in front of him at this time. He also sighed with infinite emotion in his heart. But for him he didn't know how to face himself, because at this step, he himself admitted that he had gone wrong. although he wanted a better life, although she felt that what those people promised to him should be realized. But now he knows better than anyone else in his own heart. Today it seems that he really can't do this thing, and he treats him with Arthur and Tony. It is really great. How can he do it? Can you bear to do this? Tony, thank you for letting me go, and thank you for making me understand. But now I have done something wrong with some people. They are not my friends and I have nothing to do with them except them. This time the secret money arrived and came up, and I didn't find it. At the same time, I also know I really did something wrong this time, and you should be able to know the friendship between our friends for such a long time. What kind of person I am, Ibuprofen. Thank you for agreeing to let me go. And thank you for being able to do this for our friendship for so long. I made a complaint, but I really can't forgive myself in my own heart. After Ibuprofen finished speaking, he picked up the dagger from the ground and wiped it on his neck. Even if Arthur wanted to save him, it was too late. Looking at the heroic Ibuprofen at this time, he really felt that he was the most like a man at this time. As for the various things in the past, he didn't want to say more things. People are gone. Even if it is so much, what use is it? What's more, Tony didn't suffer any injuries at this time, so it was enough to catch the culprit in this matter. The man who committed suicide, seeing that Ibuprofen had died in front of him at this time, it was really hard for him to believe the person who was greedy for life and afraid of death. There would be such a strong side, and it was really terrifying at this time. I didn't expect that his Ibuprofen would be able to kill so much, and he would have to protect the man in front of him. Find flowers. Tony didn't expect your life to be so good. Your little friend has already promised to betray us, but now it seems that he has chosen to betray again. This is really speechless. Just such a traitor. I don't know how you can believe her. Anyway, now he has died in front of you. Then all of you will definitely think it is very innocent. But let me tell you, she is really a very hateful person. And for a person like him, you don't deserve to feel sorry for him at all. He has never regarded you as good friends. And he has never regarded you people as his own relatives. Otherwise, our people just touched him gently. He can promise so much. You said that such a person, why do you bother about him? There is no need for you to do something bad at that time. There is no need to be so entangled for such a person. Second, chapter 393, at this time, Arthur had completely taken away. He didn't know why these people came like this. They were all wearing Ibuprofen, and they were all dead. Why do you still have to say so many bad things about him? What's more, the current Ibuprofenians are already lying on the ground. Why can't they let him go? Although he also made Ibuprofen before. What are the things that people cannot forgive? But now that people are already dead, what are the things that can't be forgiven? You people are really hateful. Do you know that your current thoughts are really hateful? Our friends have already lost their lives. Isn't that enough? Could it be said that such punishment is not enough for her? Why do you have to stick to his measures? Could it be said that he died again to let them go? Since my friend is dead, don't blame us. At this time, after Arthur lightly tapped a few times on the man's body, the man felt that 10,000 ants were constantly crawling on his body, and they seemed to be biting. Its body is the same. Such a feeling of pain made him feel very painful in his heart. And at the same time he felt very painful, and such a feeling made him no longer want to live. He hugged his head vigorously, and after squatting on the ground, he kept knocking his head against a pillar next to him, trying to relieve the pain on his body. And there were other people in the room. When they saw that Arthur had just moved his hands gently, they could make people live like this. They also felt particularly scared. And Ibuprofen was their best friend in the daytime, but now Ibuprofen had died by himself in order to be able to atone for his sins. Looking at these abilities of Arthur at this time, when everyone looked at Arthur, there was already another feeling in their eyes. They all knew Arthur, and they were really very angry at this time, and the techniques Arthur used now they have been truly convinced. Arthur, please, just kill me. Otherwise I really can't stand it. At this moment, the man begged helplessly, and Arthur showed no signs of softness at all. Because his good friend had already died in front of him. How could he forgive the man in front of him? And if there are no such people, think about how he could die with ibuprofen. Having lived on the sea for so many years, isn't anyone who wants to live in his heart? If this is not the case, why bother to be these hated pirates? But now that his friend has died in front of him, how can this make Arthur feel relieved? And how can he forgive the man in front of him? It's really funny. I really feel that you have some moral kidnapping suspicions when you say this. Why do you want me to forgive you? And why should I forgive you? Do you know that when you did these hands and feet to make him die in front of me with ibuprofen, all of you are going to die. Chapter 394. These words that Arthur said were eerie and terrifying, which also caused everyone to take a few steps back when they saw what Arthur was like at this time. They really have seen it. At this time, Arthur is really angry, and his technique is so unique that it can make life worse than death. Such a strong man in front of him has been subdued by him, but what ability do other people have to resist it? And the man at this time had already begun to twitch constantly. There was white foam in his mouth. Seeing this man in this situation, all two looked at Arthur at this time with very scared eyes. You people don't need to hide, because for me, as long as you follow him and leave you honestly, you are my good friends. And I am not such an ungrateful person, and at the same time, I am not such a person who does not know the etiquette. So for this kind of thing, you can rest assured that I won't happen to you like this. What are you doing? Seeing at this moment, when Arthur smiled at them, everyone felt that Arthur was a smiling tiger. They had made such a choice, but now they can still face them with such a smile. This is really not easy. And at this time it can be seen that Arthur is. I was really angry. In fact, she had some clues like this not long ago. It's just that Tony didn't think so, but felt that his friend was really not easy. That's why he did it. Did not take this matter to heart. But now it seems that such a thing should really have been paid attention to earlier, otherwise there would never be such a problem. Arthur still asks who he is. You want to assassinate me? After all, this kind of thing is really speechless to me. I do my best for everyone, and everyone doesn't think I am their boss. What will make them unconvinced? But why do I have to do this? After hearing these words from Tony, Arthur took it directly on the man's body and pressed it lightly. All the uncomfortable feelings of all those on the man's body. It was gone all of a sudden, and the pain on his body could also let him know those things just now. It was not like dreaming. Okay, I have already explained it to you. You can tell me quickly, what is going on? If you don't say it, then don't blame me for making you worse off. On this ship, I don't think that people like you 300 are a few of two. I think you people must be watching. Tony has been seriously injured, so that's why you are like this. People like you, I really feel speechless. People will get hurt. Why do you people have to come out to make trouble at such a time? Do you know that Donna's situation has just been out of danger? If you really want to put him to death, wouldn't it be over if he was killed by Anil on the battlefield? Why must such a problem arise? I have saved him from exhaustion. How do you think I can let him die in front of me? Mime Private 395. Arthur's words also made the man raise his head and carefully examined Arthur's face. He said, I really didn't want to deal with him. I just want to see if he is really injured or not. If it is really injured, then those of us will have a chance to take advantage of it. But if it is a fake injury, then we have written such thoughts. Then follow him and stay here with the great wolf on the island. I now know that Tony is really injured, so we have a chance to leave the island. Arthur really didn't expect that the man in front of him had already suffered so many injuries, and he was able to talk nonsense like this, which really made him feel particularly unbelievable. At this moment, Arthur held a dagger in his hand and placed it gently on the man's body. After a few casual strokes, he saw that the man's clothes had left her body lightly. She also showed a strong upper body. I really didn't expect that the man in front of me had muscles and looked very scary. Arthur made himself when he was the least okay. Just like a walking muscle, it really makes Arthur feel a little uncomfortable. And such a person is a kind of giving. There is a feeling that the body has no brains. And the man in front of him saw that his clothes had been gently stripped off by Arthur. The people in the room also thought that Arthur wanted to do this, which also made them completely unclear about what Arthur did. What the hell is going on? The man wrapped his hands around his chest, and then asked a little shyly, "Arthur, what are you doing? In front of so many people, you can't humiliate me like this." Seeing the subconscious movement of the man in front of him, Arthur couldn't help but laughed. He didn't expect that there would be people like this kind of man. This is really too sad. And the person who likes such a man has been stimulated to have such a hobby. You can rest assured that I am not interested in you. I just want you to tell the truth. If you tell the truth, I won't embarrass you again. But if you don't tell the truth, then don't blame me for being impolite. I can cheat you all the meat on you piece by piece, and then ask everyone to taste it. The people in the room were able to claim the life and death of someone by looking at Arthur's understatement at this time. This really made them all feel that their lives were worthless in front of Arthur. At the same time, they hadn't seen Arthur look so vicious in a long time. And in front of them, Arthur has always been good, a gentle boy. But when he was feeling emotional now, he felt that Arthur was like a ghost from the underworld, and he had really scared all of them to the same place, and they were trembling with wars. Although they knew Arthur, this might be frightening the man in front of them, but at the same time they didn't deny that if Arthur really initiated a ruthlessness, maybe he could really do this thing. Mime Private 396. It's just that the man of Tony the Assassin didn't think about whether Arthur would really do this. Because for him, he didn't believe that Arthur would dare to treat himself like this. Arthur, people often say, just say you don't practice the fake handle. Do you really want to practice your sword technique on me? If that's the case, I really feel like someone like me if you can die in your hands. That's really a blessing. You, Arthur, are now a little famous person. If I could die in your hands, how would they write your history? Woolen cloth. Arthur could see that the man in front of him was really pretending to be calm, and his muscles were constantly shaking. It has already shown that he is really scared, but now 300 is watching him still pretending that he is not scared at all. And Arthur can't help laughing. People are really self-aware. If you really think I'm scaring you, then you can really let me give it a go. And I am definitely a person with very accurate hands, and I think I can deceive 3,800 pieces of you in your body, so it is equivalent to saying that you have to bear my $3,800. And I can make you a bone frame, and let your life hang you. Think about it. Will you be able to see more clearly that your own flesh is being cut by me one by one? Come down. Then I was thrown into the sea to feed the fish. In this way, would the fish also like my feed? If you really think that I am a person who just talks about it, then don't blame me for doing experiments on you. I didn't really do experiments on anyone before, and at that time, most of the fish I ate was sashimi. The fish meat would become very thin for me, but I really didn't know the human flesh. If you all really want to watch it, you can applaud or even throw you a few rewards. I can also show you all. These people in the room couldn't help but feel particularly sick when they heard what Arthur said. And there are people too. I think Arthur is talking big words here. After all, they really haven't seen Arthur perform in such a situation. And they also think that a person like Arthur can't get such a big deal. After Arthur's gaze patrolled the faces of the people around him, he gently picked up the dagger in his hand, and slashed it lightly on the man's hand. It was as thin as a piece of paper. A piece of meat has been cut off. The man at this moment saw his own flesh, which had been cut off by Arthur, and the thinness was beyond his expectation. At the same time, the pain in the whole body was once again. It struck him, and the blood flowed out involuntarily. Although there were only a few wounds, there was already a smell of blood in the room. All the people, you look at me, I look at you. They really didn't expect Arthur to do it, and he could really make such a big thin piece. Mime Private 397, come and get me some crushed ice. I will put these pieces of meat on the crushed ice one by one, and then let you observe them carefully. Let's see how the meat is different from the tuna or other animal meats that we eat on weekdays. If you really like it, I can cut some meat for you, and then you can cook it in a hot pot. When all the people heard these words from Arthur, they all felt very uncomfortable in their stomachs, and a few cowardly people had already ran out and vomited in the dark. At this moment, Tony looked at Arthur. He couldn't help but shook his head. Arthur is really more mature than he thought, and Arthur's torturing method is too powerful. Arthur, please let them go. As long as he can tell the instigator behind the scenes, we will let him go, okay? Why take so many murders? In addition, there will be some other people's blood in our hands. But I definitely don't want to let your hands get so many killings. And now this kid has been scared by you. If he can really say it, you can spare him. Seeing what Tony looked like at this time, Arthur could only nod his head, since the boss on this boat had already interceded for them. And why should he be such a wicked person? What's more, he really didn't want to do this kind of thing with his own hands. But if they don't know what is good or bad, Arthur feels that he really wants to let's kill quit. And after the man's gaze suddenly drifted to a person in the room, he quickly, when he received it back, and Arthur looked at the man. He also felt particularly shocked, because this man was a chief mate on this ship. Arthur still knew him before, and now the man who assassinated Tony. After fixing his gaze on her, Arthur felt that this person must still have some suspicions. At the same time, Arthur also knew that the man in front of him might be fooling around, trying to make people like them rebel. Find flowers. Then he slapped the table vigorously, and then looked at these people in the room and said loudly, I know that many of you among you are not convinced of his separation, but also not convinced of the management of the separation, but I hope you all know it clearly. If these people do not have honest management, ask yourself if you can manage so many people well, if you say that you can manage it well. So I really hope that Tony will no longer manage these messy things, and I also hope that Tony can safely be a sailor. It's really a very good result. Since you all want this position so much, then you can make your own decisions. I am really angry looking at you people now. These people in the room saw Arthur's temper tantrum at this time, and they all felt that Arthur was really too powerful. In the past, they thought that Arthur was a harmless person. Mime Private 398. But now that they saw something like this, they all felt that Arthur was really too gentle in front of them. If they had seen Arthur's situation before, they absolutely don't dare to build momentum like this. And they absolutely don't dare to give birth to such thoughts. The first officer who was staring directly at Arthur had already knelt on the ground. Arthur, please forgive me. I have an 80-year-old mother and a child who is waking up. I really didn't want her to kill Tony, and I really haven't thought about how to deal with her. I just want him to stay in bed for a few more days, so that the ship can listen to me, and I can give myself that little benefit without violating my own conscience. Now that you have seen it through, so please forgive us. I won't dare again next time. I really didn't want to harm Tony in any way. The people in the room only saw the first mate in front of him at this time. It turned out to be the current virtue. No wonder the first mate has been arrogant since Tony was injured. It turned out to be with such an idea. And it really made everyone think that a person like him was really hateful. Even wanting to calculate Tony's point, it really makes them feel that this place can't spare him at all. Tony was like he hadn't seen the man in front of him. With a wave of his hand, several people walked out of the room, pulling out the first officer and the man who assassinated Tony. At this time, the hearts of these people in the room are messed up. If Tony really does something at this time, then they should all be cannon fodder. Arthur watched Tony's face reddening unnaturally, so he quickly walked to Tony's front and touched his forehead with his clothes. After that, he couldn't help but startled. I don't know when Tony started, he has already started to have a fever, which is not a good sign for his ossicles. And when these people in the room saw Arthur's expression, they all knew that Tony must be in danger right now. Otherwise, Arthur would never look at all of them like this. You people should leave here now, don't mess around here, and you've all seen it at this time. I really want to do something now, so it is to help Tony heal the injuries quickly. If you really want to stay on this boat, you will hurry up and stay honestly for me during this period of time. And now our ship has really left this sea area. If you leave, it's best. If you don't leave, set sail quickly. Tony's current situation really cannot let her Anil know. If he really knows, then for all of you, that was a catastrophe. Now that there are a few people on the ship who can go out and fight, you can all know clearly, so let's set sail now. Mime Private 399. These people on the boat look at me and I look at you. Everyone understands that what Arthur said is a very reasonable thing, and at the same time, they all know better than anyone else. At this time, they must also leave this place. If they were discovered by Anil's people, they would have no chance to survive. But now some of the good players on the ship are already doing their own things. They are just soy saucers, and they simply don't have the ability to order those who sail on the ship. Oh, too. We are really powerless at your request, Arthur. We are just ordinary sailors, and those who can sail have already defected. Some have gone missing. What's more, Tony is our captain. Without his order, no one would dare to do that. Arthur can now understand that these people really don't want him to live on Tony, and this time they must also be looking forward to Tony's death, so that they can mix with Anil. Ha ha ha, it's really ridiculous. You people can already say such things, then don't blame me for being impolite. Aren't you all hundreds of people here? Then go find me those who can sail. I always want to ask him if he really wants to leave alive now. If you don't want to, then just jump into the sea. Anyway, there must be many under the sea. If the shark wants to leave alive, then quickly set the boat for me. Don't think that Arthur is a good talker, and don't think that Tony is a seriously injured person. You have to know that as long as I am here, Tony will definitely live. At this time, a different kind of light appeared in Tony's eyes. He really didn't expect that Arthur would still defend himself in this way, and he really didn't expect it from then on. Under this circumstance, all my good friends in the past have already separated from me. Now it seems that if I don't show up some of the last abilities, people like them will definitely not surrender to me. Come out and kill all these traitors one by one. I don't believe that the hundreds of people on our ship will not be able to leave here. There was a neat sound from outside the cabin, and after a while I heard a high-pitched sound from inside the cabin, and such a shout made Arthur frown. Don't worry, Arthur, this matter will be settled in a while, and this matter will have a result in a while. So stay here with peace of mind. I know that my injury is really serious now, but there is no way. I can only talk about it after the incident is calmed down. You know, if I really can't settle this matter. Think about it, if I just let them do what to me now, and these injuries on my body are not going to be able to die in a short while. Arthur sighed helplessly and returned to his seat. He knew that Tony was bound to deal with this matter at this time, and he also knew that Tony was bound to do so at this time. Chapter 400. Otherwise, if Arthur was on this ship, he really became a lonely and helpless person, and these people on this ship might not be able to truly accept themselves. It didn't take long for Arthur to smell the real blood. The footsteps outside the cabin were also very noisy, and the voices of human voices were constantly being introduced into Arthur's ears. And the whole shipyard quietly dropped a needle on the ground, and the long wait was finally over after the cabin door opened. Arthur saw a man being pushed over. Arthur knew this man. This is a kid they met when they sailed together before, and when Tony saw this person, his face was heartbroken, but this person seemed to ignore Tony's sadness at all, just laughed loudly. Said, "Tony, you didn't think about it, all of these things were done by me, and you really didn't think about how this matter would affect you. You should be able to clearly know that under this situation, I am really helpless, because you, Tony, really make me sad. We have such good resources, why not continue mining? Don't you think that after we all go back with too much gold in our hands, we will be able to glorify our ancestors? Don't you think we have so much gold in our hands? We go to buy boats to buy people. Isn't it good for us to be able to dominate in such a sea area? Why do you have to retreat from the rapids? Why not cooperate with Anil? Do you know that Anil will really bring us a lot of benefits? Tony looked at his good friend, and now he was fascinated by money. He really felt that he really shouldn't be kind to them. They should have been brought to justice one by one, and they should be killed when they had such an idea, or else they wouldn't have suffered this kind of unwarranted disaster. And such calculations also made it Tony feel that very few of his friends can treat it as the same thing. John, our friends for so many years, don't you know what Tony is like? I really didn't expect anyone to betray me. You, John, can also betray me, and I really didn't expect me to take you like a brother, but you treated me with such a face. Are you really able to do it? Do you really think that after killing me you will be able to equal Anil? Will you be able to share so many gold mines with him? Your idea is too simple. Do you know how ambitious he is? Do you know how many traps he has set up where you haven't seen him? Just waiting for you stupid people to step in? Okay. Good, isn't it, for everyone to stop me in time? Don't I know that the gold is good? Don't I know what I will become after working with Anil? You are so stupid. At this time, Anil had already coughed a little bit angrily by John, but his words still literally reached the ears of everyone present. Arthur didn't expect John at this time to be such a greedy person. Chapter 401. John seemed to have fallen into a nightmare at this time. He really felt that Arthur was a person who was blocking his way, and now Arthur can make her feel like a clown no matter what she does, and he really can't tolerate it. At this time, John was already yelling hysterically, "If Arthur weren't for you, my plan would be seamless because of me, and my plan would allow me to dominate such a sea. And if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to hurt Tony in any way. I just let him disappear gently. In this way, for all of us, we can take care of this kind of share, emotional. What's more, all of us now have nothing to say. It's all because of you, Arthur. Do you know if it's because of you that affected our friendship? It is because of you that all of us have become what we are now. If that is not the case, you can tell us if you are a hateful person. And he won't live as he does now if he leaves. And I can become the captain of this ship because of you." Looking at John, Arthur, who was already crazy at this time, he didn't know what to say. But Tony would never allow Arthur to suffer such injuries, and he would never allow Arthur to become the person everyone judged. At this time, Tony had also struggled to sit up and looked towards him, and said very calmly while John was roaring there, "John, do you think your current plan can really be realized? Do you really think that if he doesn't bother you, Arthur, you can really defeat me? Do you know that all your movements are under my control? The reason why I don't want to do this is because of the friendship of my buddies for many years. I didn't do this. But now you have already put the hand on me. How do you think I can tolerate you? How can I not know your few people? I have nothing to say about their deaths and injuries. I originally wanted to keep you safe and live with me. But now it seems that this kind of thing has been disrupted by you, and I will no need to be polite." Tony's voice was pale and weak at this time, but everyone can know that Tony is really angry now, and more. Everyone can also understand that Tony at this time is very different from the man they have seen in the past, and this type of him is his true face. John can now feel the threats from death. And he can also understand that if he really can't beg for mercy at this time, perhaps Tony would really ignore his life and death, not to mention that Tony is not the talkative person before. At this time, no one thought of it. John had quickly climbed to Arthur's side, and drew a dagger directly from behind him. Everyone felt that when such a dagger was about to pierce him, only to see Arthur lightly outlined his foot and lifted it up, and John had fallen to the side.